Chapter 2682. Of course, Ningshu didn't have the heart to tell Li Si that maybe his child had become an animal with a short life, or maybe he had reincarnated again. But he still gave him a heads up. Your child's soul was seriously polluted. If he reincarnated, he wouldn't be a good person. And you should know the worst-case scenario. Ningshu was patient with Li Si. He also hoped that Li Si could help guard the hell. The other skeletons were His Excellency, so they couldn't stay here forever. She needed to develop her own power. Li Si saw an animal like a cow jump into the reincarnation pool. His heart sank. Would his child become an animal? Or a snake, a rat, an insect or something? If he became an animal or a spirit beast, he could cultivate and strengthen his soul. It was okay if he became a spirit beast, but he was afraid that he would become an ordinary chicken, duck or fish and become the target of slaughter. If he became an old cow, he would have to work hard for a lifetime. What was the child's reincarnation situation like? Ningshu couldn't say anything to comfort him. Look at the reincarnation pool. If you want to wait for Pai Lupi, you need to make your body stronger. If you do it for me, I will make your body stronger. Li Si said, "Thank you, Grandaunt." He could only stay in the hell. He couldn't go anywhere else. In fact, he didn't have any chance to reincarnate. After all, his soul had merged with his bones. Even if he jumped into the reincarnation pool, he probably couldn't be purified. After Ningshu came, the game of landlord was about to end. The winner chewed the gold nugget happily. The other one went to Ningshu and patted his chest to promise to complete the task. Ningshu didn't doubt the ability of these people, but their sloppy appearance made him suspicious. Ningshu had to be careful when it concerned his own world. He sincerely asked them to put in more effort. Of course, they wouldn't work for free. They would be paid. Don't worry. We will definitely help you. Beauty, don't worry. It's not a big deal. Sometimes, there are many of these kinds of beasts in other world of samsara. We can deal with them. Don't worry. Ningshu nodded. He wanted to know how to make skeletons from these skeletons. How did you become skeletons? She should at least know Dian Dian. Skeleton armor. Beauty, you've asked this question many times. I really don't know. Skeleton B. The only memory I have is of extreme pain, pain as if I wished I could die. Skeleton C. That's right, I wish I could die. However, someone told me that if I died, my soul would scatter and disappear completely. Persevere. Skeleton Ding. Beauty, isn't it better to ask the boss directly about this matter? Do you think I didn't ask? But the other party didn't tell her, so she could only secretly poach them. But these skeletons' memories obviously didn't exist. There was only pain. It was probably so painful that they couldn't see anything else. Asking these skeletons would be useless. Ningshu sniffed. Do you guys smell anything? The stench was almost suffocating. Ningshu looked towards the life pool and saw a black humanoid monster crawling out of the pool. The stickman that was only the size of a finger had now grown to the height of an adult. It was extremely smelly. When it appeared, Ningshu felt like his soul was about to faint. Ningshu was surrounded by a faint enchantment from the black bone umbrella, and the canopy of the umbrella covered the enchantment. Ningshu felt that those filthy things didn't pollute his soul. Fortunately, he had the foresight to exchange for the black bone umbrella. Otherwise, when the Calamity Beast came out, his soul would be polluted again. The Calamity Beast is out. You're finally here. The 4 skeletons surrounded Disaster Beast. Its entire body was pitch black, and there was a viscous liquid dripping from its body to the ground. It looked like drops of asphalt. It carried a stench that the soul couldn't stand. This Calamity Beast didn't have any facial features. It was like a shadow. It had no thoughts and was very ignorant. Ningshu felt uneasy. The Calamity Beast had actually grown so big. This meant that the number of souls that jumped into the life pool wasn't small. It also meant that the souls in the 9 Palace Mountain were really poisonous. If the people in the first layer of the world were souls, they would absorb soul stones. Soul stones had a lot of impurities. The earthworms that fed on soul stones would refine the poison. Although the second layer of the 9 Palace Mountain could purify the soul fluid, it was useless. It was basically a psychological effect. In fact, The soul fluid wasn't purified at all. The souls and people that absorbed the soul fluid would enter the world of reincarnation after death. Their souls would accumulate a lot of poison. Of course, there were still many souls that didn't jump into the life pool. The calamity beast roared. It seemed to have sensed danger and wanted to jump back into the life pool. However, it was stopped by the skeletons. The 4 skeletons directly stretched out their hands to catch the calamity beast. Li Si stood beside Ning Shu. He couldn't interfere in a battle of this level. Moreover, he didn't know how to deal with this black thing. Ning Shu was afraid that the aftermath of the battle would affect his body. Or if a drop of the black thing fell on his body, it would be enough to pollute his soul. This thing was really terrifying. Ning Shu wasn't afraid of fighting. However, in this situation he couldn't wait to hide far away. The 4 skeletons were obviously familiar with fighting. They also understood the calamity beast. After a few rounds, the calamity beast became a turtle in a jar. What made Ning Shu's heart palpitate the most was that these skeletons directly used their hands to catch the calamity beast. Weren't they afraid of pollution? That black and slippery thing sticking to the hands, wouldn't it corrode the skeletons? Ning Shu silently took 2 steps back. At this moment he was already very far away from the life pool. He could hear the chaotic roars of the calamity beast. Anger, fear, terror, all kinds of emotions mixed together in the roars. This was a monster that was born without any thoughts or thoughts. The skeletons subdued the skeletons and directly used the purest power of faith to hit the calamity beast. The calamity beast roared in pain. In the end, its body was directly annihilated and disappeared. It seemed like nothing was left behind. However, Ning Shu knew that if it scattered in the world of reincarnation and was slowly absorbed by the life pool, it would give birth to another calamity beast. After getting rid of the calamity beast, the hands of these skeletons were stained with black filth. The 4 skeletons squatted beside the life pool and directly put their hands into the life pool to wash. After washing their hands, they were still as clean as new. They were golden yellow. Merit could prevent these filth from corroding the bones. Ning Shu looked at Li Si, who was at the side. Should he also give Li Si more merit in the future? Otherwise, he would be corroded. The world of reincarnation had such a skeleton and such a precious egg. Ning Shu held the umbrella and walked over. The air was still filled with the stench. This stench was simply indescribable. This was the impurities of the soul. The human soul had the most impurities. /BK. Chapter 2683. Most animals only had 2 instincts, survival and reproduction. Most of them acted according to their instincts. But humans were different. They had emotions and desires. They would be sad, lonely, and have hatred and resentment. Apart from survival and reproduction, humans had the most desires out of all living creatures. Most of the toxins in the soul were produced by humans. Ning Shu could not help but cover his nose. It was too smelly, but the skeletons did not seem to be able to smell it. They probably did not have a sense of smell anymore. Beauty, it settled. It will take some time for another disaster beast to be born. Don't worry. If another disaster beast is born, call us. Ning Shu heaved a sigh of relief. This matter was finally settled. Ning Shu said, "Thank you. How can I give you the merit points?" Ning Shu's merit points were a string of numbers, not a gold nugget that the skeletons ate. The skeletons rubbed their hands embarrassedly. "Just give it to us. Can you transfer it?" "It's not easy. You can transfer it to our direct leaders, but you won't get as much merit points." The skeletons said. Some of their merit points would be taken away. Even if it was extra income, a portion would be taken away. It was bitter. Unless the merit points were directly given to them, it would not be taken away. If it was given to the public account, it would be taken away. Ning Shu understood that there was no problem with smuggling the merit points. If it was given to him, it would not be taken away. But if it was given to the public account, he would definitely be taken away. He did not expect being a skeleton to be so bitter. "Then wait, I'll think of a way. How to turn the merit points into gold nuggets." "Okay, it's okay. No matter how long it takes. There's no hurry. It's my duty to serve the beauty." Ning Shu was speechless. Can I not give the merit points? Ning Shu could not stand the smell and left with the umbrella. After leaving the first level of the 9-Palace Mountain, Ning Shu put down the umbrella. He saw that the pure white surface of the umbrella was stained with something that looked like black ash. Ning Shu did not dare to use his hands to wipe it off. He shook the surface of the umbrella, but the black ash seemed to have solidified on the surface. He could not shake it off. Could it be that this was the pollution that the umbrella blocked for her? He suddenly felt that the 50,000 yuan was worth it. At the very least, it was useful. The price didn't matter. Ning Shu could still afford an umbrella. Back in the system space, 2333's alarm rang. Quests. Ning Shu was speechless. 2333 has been dormant for quite some time. Why hasn't he absorbed the system's energy yet? Since the system was also a soul, would 2333 send the system's soul to the main system to be purified? There was no way he could devour their souls like an abyssal prefect. In short, she knew nothing about 2333. She had no idea. Ning Shu couldn't be bothered as long as 2333 didn't cause her any trouble. They had always stayed out of each other's business. Ning Shu opened up the chat system and asked about how he could materialize his merit points into gold nuggets. Abyssal Prefect. The disaster beast has been dealt with. Ning Shu wasn't surprised that the Abyssal Prefect knew about it. Since the Abyssal Prefect had already given him a reward, then the matter must have been resolved. Abyssal Prefect, ask the main system for it. The main system was really omnipotent. He had to ask the main system for everything. Ning Shu opened up the main system and told the main system that he wanted to exchange merit points. The main system replied, 1,000 merit points for 1 merit grain. You will need to pay 1 merit grain for 10 merit grains as a production tax. Ning Shu quickly calculated in his mind. 1,000 merit points for 1 grain. 10 grains would be 10,000 merit points. Those skeletons bet a lot. She thought it was just a small gamble. The gold nugget must have accumulated a lot of merit points. It felt like no matter what he did, the organization was just trying to make money, using all sorts of excuses to collect taxes. How evil! Ning Shu thought for a moment and decided to exchange for 30 merit grains. 30 grains would be 30,000 merit points. He only had 27 in total. 3 would be used to pay the tax. The main system, exchange from the system store. Find the page and click on the exchange button. Ning Shu opened the store and exchanged for 30 merit grains. In total, he had 27 merit grains. These merit grains were heavy in his hand. They were only the size of a finger, but they felt very heavy. Ning Shu took 20. For skeletons, 5 for each of them. That was also 5,000 merit points. She couldn't even get 5,000 merit points from doing a single task. Ning Shu thought for a moment. It was better to give each of them 6. She couldn't deal with evil beasts. If evil beasts really appeared, she would have to ask the skeletons for help. At least before Li Si could help, she would have to ask the skeletons for help. Even if Li Si helped, she might not be able to deal with the skeletons alone. She would have to ask for help. If she was too stingy, no one would help her next time. Ning Shu took all 27 merit grains and went to the world of reincarnation with an umbrella. She couldn't leave the umbrella in the future. As long as she went to the world of reincarnation, she would have to hold an umbrella. This is your reward. Thank you. Ning Shu placed the merit grains in the hands of the skeletons. 6 for each of them. There were only 3 left. She gave 1 to Li Si. Li Si was a little surprised. He quickly reached out and took it. He didn't help. He didn't expect to get something good. Looking at the other skeletons eating this, it should be something good. Li Si was directly suppressed by the merit grains and fell to the ground. The other skeletons chuckled and threw the merit grains in their hands. Thank you, Beauty. Beauty is very generous. Next time if you need anything, come and find us. She thought that she could get 3 merit grains. She didn't expect to get 3 more. Ning Shu didn't understand the value of these skeletons. She also didn't know how many merit grains they would get for suppressing the evil beasts in the world of reincarnation. She didn't understand the market. Ning Shu asked, "Are you going back to the world of reincarnation?" The skeleton nodded, "We are going back." As the skeleton spoke, it crunched on all the merit granules and even burped. Comfortable. It ate all of them? Not leaving a bit. It's the safest to eat it in the stomach. If we go back, what should we do? If we eat it, the head won't say anything. The skeleton said. Sly, cunning. If he really believed that these skeletons were enchanted by beauty, he would be an idiot. How you going back? I have to trouble you to inform the big boss. We can't go back like this. The skeleton said. Ning Shu nodded and opened the black hole. He came to the outside of the consultation room in Wood City. He stood outside the consultation room and didn't go in. Once he went in, he would ask for money. You can't ask people for money when they are outside. Ning Shu sent a message to His Excellency, asking him to come and pick them up. Not long after, His Excellency appeared. Didn't I give them to you? His Excellency felt that it was troublesome to send them back and forth. Big boss, you can't abandon us. Big boss, we can't breathe without you. Big boss, we will always be loyal to you. /BK. Chapter 2684. These skeletons were hugging His Excellency's leg and crying. They were in a world of reincarnation, guarding a rebirth pool that gave birth to an evil beast. When would they be able to make a name for themselves? In other worlds, evil beasts were born every day in the world of reincarnation. If they wanted to earn merit grains, they had to go to the vast world of reincarnation. They only came here to relax, they didn't want to stay there forever. His Excellency kicked these skeletons away and stepped on them, but these skeletons let out ecstatic cries. Oh, boss! Ning Shu couldn't bear to see or hear. His Excellency directly threw these skeletons into the black carved door. They could still faintly hear the ecstatic cries of the skeletons. His Excellency was about to leave, but Ning Shu quickly stopped him. His Excellency looked down at her. What? There's something I don't know if I should say. Don't say it. His Excellency said directly. Ning Shu didn't hear his rejection. What do you want in exchange for teaching me how to make skeletons? Everything can be discussed. His Excellency, how about you help me plant flowers for 1,000 years? 1,000 years? I haven't even lived for 1,000 years. 1,000 years of flowers and plants, Ning Shu felt like she might go crazy. Especially since His Excellency was using corpses as fertilizer, this was too challenging. If there wasn't the law of nothingness, Ning Shu might have considered it. But there were still so many tasks waiting for him. Even 2333 had to set an alarm when it went into hibernation. Ning Shu didn't want to think about how many tasks he had yet to complete. So, it was impossible to be a gardener. And 1,000 years was too long. Ning Shu only needed to seize the moment. Who knew what would happen after 1,000 years? Ning Shu shook her head. His Excellency said, you don't agree. Similarly, I also don't agree with what you said. There was nothing to discuss. How could I give you things for free? If I'm happy, I'll give it to you. If I'm not happy, I won't give it to you. Of course, there were some things that I definitely wouldn't give you. His Excellency's rejection was expected. In the end, she didn't have the right to make a deal with him. If it was before, he wouldn't even care about her. Only those of the same class had the same right to speak. Ning Shu no longer talked about the method of making skeletons. Worrying about things that were too far away would only add to his troubles. Do you have star stones? I'll use my merit points to trade. Abyssal Prefect, no. Ning Shu, you're a big shot, but you don't even have such a thing. The Abyssal Prefect was baffled. There are plenty of things I don't have. What does that have to do with me being a big shot? Fuck, provocation didn't work. If this was said to an he would definitely say that he had it. The matter of the plain link is the army's matter. If you want star stones, ask the army for it. Abyssal Prefect Qinyi walked around Ning Shu and entered through the black gate, before turning back to Qinyi and saying, you'd better think it through. Come and be my gardener. Ning Shu waved his hand. First of all, 1,000 years was a long time. Moreover, His Excellency lived in the world of reincarnation. If her soul went to the spirit world, She would definitely be contaminated. She couldn't possibly plant flowers while holding an umbrella. Therefore, this matter was impossible. With this emptiness, she might as well make herself more and more powerful. She needed star stones right now. This was a matter of utmost importance in a matter of urgency. Ning Shu sent the skeleton away and hurriedly returned to the system space. She clicked on the chat system and saw that He's ban on her had been lifted. And he didn't go too far. He only blocked her for half a month. After returning from a mission, the ban was lifted. Unlike some people who directly blocked her for 20 years. 20 years. If there was an emergency, she couldn't even send a message. Ning Shu directly asked He for star stones. Anyway, the more star stones, the better. And he directly said no. It was illegal for them to make private transactions like this. Ning Shu. Illegal? You must be kidding me. Although the rules of the organization were strict, as the right to speak increased, they could bend the rules. As long as it didn't endanger the plane, they would turn a blind eye. As long as it didn't affect the general direction, no one would say anything about it. Money was rolling in. Otherwise, what was the point of climbing and rolling and stumbling to become strong? Every time he did business, he had to talk nonsense and bring out the domineering aura of a soldier. In one sentence, sell or not. And he, not for sale. Ning Shu, sell it, sir. I really need it. And he, I'll sell it to you. There will be one less piece when the plane is inlaid. What if something happens to the plane in the future? Ning Shu wanted to pound the ground. Then let me pick up trash. I'll get 2 drops from the plane gap. Life was simply too difficult to take a single step forward. Because it was too weak. Ning Shu saw He's firm attitude and gave up on buying from him. The connection was rejected. Ning Shu expressed that his heart was very fragile now. His glass heart was broken. Then, he took the letter to the space city to comprehend the space law. He didn't know where to comprehend the law. There was no city in the space of law to comprehend the law. He would comprehend the space law first and take it slow. Ning Shu wanted to take it slow, but the virtual law wouldn't wait for him. A world that had been fed with so many soul origins must not be swallowed up by the law of nothingness. There was so much soul origin energy. If he ate it all, he would probably become a big fatty. His body would not be able to take the nourishment. Ning Shu sat cross-legged in the space city and opened the letter. She had already slightly comprehended the power of space. She hoped that she could understand the mysterious letter. Why did it have to be as difficult to understand as underground intelligence? Ning Shu looked at the letter. The strange lines on the letter seemed to be twisting after looking at it for a long time, arranged into all kinds of incomprehensible shapes. It was always changing. Although she couldn't understand it, Ning Shu was quite happy. At least now the letter had changed. Could it be that this letter needed to be at the entry level of the space law to see the changes? The more she flipped, the more dizzy she felt. It was also complicated. The lines were wrapped into a mess. She couldn't understand it at all. Ning Shu flipped to the first page again. The lines on the first page were very simple. There were only a few lines. They were knotted together, sometimes separated, and sometimes knotted together. Ning Shu stared at the changes in these lines. She stared cross-eyed, unable to understand. Forget it, she would slowly comprehend it herself. If she could comprehend it just by looking at the letter, then the space law couldn't be called a high-level law. It wasn't that difficult to comprehend. Because she had half a foot in the door, Ning Shu could now at least go shopping with the space law. If she wanted to enter a restaurant, she wouldn't have to step into an auction house. If she wanted to go somewhere, she had to locate the space node. She couldn't rely on her eyes to see a restaurant in front of her, but it might not be a restaurant. It was finally not awkward. There weren't many people in the space city. There probably weren't many people who could comprehend the space law. With the restrictions, there were even fewer people in the space city. Doing business in the space city was a great test. /BK Chapter 2685. Ning Shu had gained some enlightenment in the spatial city, but she felt like she was missing something. She felt like she was just one step away from the door. But Ning Shu couldn't pinpoint exactly what he was missing. After racking his brains for a long time, Ning Shu still couldn't find an answer. Since he couldn't figure it out, Ning Shu couldn't be bothered to think about it. If he couldn't figure it out, he wouldn't be able to figure it out no matter how hard he tried. There would always be a moment of inspiration, but the more he struggled, the more he couldn't figure it out. Instead, he would fall into endless frustration. He tried his best to suppress this feeling of pity. Just a little bit more, just a little bit more. Ning Shu temporarily left the space city. He would come back to comprehend it when he was relaxed. Ning Shu opened the black bone umbrella. Since the umbrella never left his hand, he would take it with him wherever he went. It would be good if it could block some of the pollutants. Of course, when he was anxious, he wouldn't use an umbrella. Ning Shu opened the black hole and arrived at the third layer of the Nine Palace Mountain. When he arrived at the third layer, he could clearly feel that this world was much more lively than before. Moreover, there were more living beings, especially some of the smaller ones. The increase in living beings was probably related to the 2 pearls that the Abyssal Prefect brought over. That was why the number of living beings increased. However, Ning Shu felt a surge of faith power entering her body. Since there was faith power, it meant that there were people in this world who believed in her. Could it be those savages? The faith power was still quite pure. At this time, humans were still struggling to eat and wear, so they weren't that greedy. This faith power was pure, very pure. Strands of faith power floated towards her like translucent threads. Ning Shu stretched out her hand to catch the faith power. She had never seen faith power so pure that it could be seen with the naked eye. Ning Shu clenched her hand and collected the strands of faith power. As this world developed, this pure faith power was bound to disappear. However, this faith power was also an unexpected gain. Ning Shu carefully sensed the situation of this world. The laws were slowly evolving, finally becoming more orderly and stable. Generally, there wouldn't be sudden changes in temperature. A stable environment was conducive to the survival of living beings. Ning Shu felt as if he had touched upon something. There were murmurs in his ears, filled with piety and faith. Ning Shu opened her eyes. Who was talking in her ear? It didn't sound like a language, one high and one low. It sounded like a chant, but the content of the chant was completely incomprehensible. Judging from the sound, it should be made by a human. Could it be that the barbarians were chanting? Ning Shu turned invisible and went to the place where the chanting was taking place. He saw a group of people wearing animal skins. There were old and young, men and women. Their hair was messy and their faces were dirty. Their faces were smeared with grass juice and the color of flowers. They sang and danced. Their movements were not very nice, but they were very serious. Ning Shu even received some faith power for this. Could it be that this was a sacrificial ceremony? It didn't matter what these people were doing, as long as he could get faith power. Ning Shu took the power of faith and left. The world was slowly stabilizing, and she was no longer needed. It was good that it was stable. She didn't have to worry about this world. Ning Shu left the 3rd level and entered the 2nd level. He opened the umbrella and sensed Yi Lin's location. He didn't know if Yi Lin was still alive. Ning Shu found that not only did the 3rd level have more living beings, but the 2nd level had also increased. The villages and towns were showing signs of prosperity. Every time he passed by a place and found someone refining soul fluid, he would immediately destroy the device. As for the soul fluid, of course, he would take it away. These small workshops didn't produce much soul fluid. Of course, there were a lot of impurities. Even if they used filtration devices, there were still a lot of impurities. Ning Shu opened the black bone umbrella and collected the soul fluid. While looking for Yi Lin, he could use his spiritual power to scan the towns and villages. He would know if anyone was refining soul fluid. This method wouldn't happen for a while. The benefits were great. Soul fluid was something that could strengthen one's soul and increase one's strength. Apart from spiritual power, soul fluid strengthened one's soul. One's body could be strengthened with cultivation, but one's soul couldn't be strengthened except for some natural treasures that could strengthen the soul. However, natural treasures were called natural treasures because they were rare and precious. But soul fluid was different. One only needed to collect the souls of people who had just died to produce soul fluid. The cost was low, and the profits were high. If there wasn't a strong external pressure, it would be like weeds that would grow again in the spring breeze. Along the way, Ning Shu collected a lot of soul fluid. He could have located the spatial node and directly jumped, but with the soul fluid, Ning Shu would rather walk slowly. As for Yi Lin's safety, he was a proud son of heaven. He wouldn't die. Even if he was suffering now, it was probably to build a strong foundation. When the heavens are about to give a great responsibility to a great man, they must first torment his will and work his muscles and bones. Ning Shu felt that even if he didn't appear, Yi Lin might have reached the peak of life and had other adventures. Following her master wasn't necessarily a good thing. Because he was the red-haired witch's disciple, Yi Lin wasn't welcomed anywhere. According to the sensing of the peerless martial arts, Ning Shu came to the edge of a cliff. He stood on the edge and looked down. Oh, it was so high. If he fell, he would be done for. However, he sensed that Yi Lin was around. There was probably a cave on the cliff. There was an old grandpa in the cave, or there was a martial arts secret book. Ning Shu grabbed the umbrella handle and jumped down the cliff. He slowly rotated and descended. Finally, he stepped on a tree on the cliff and saw the situation in the cave. He scanned with his spiritual power. The two children were indeed inside and were cultivating. The cave was full of spiritual power. There was actually a spirit vein. It seemed that someone had dug a cave here and let the two children take advantage of it. Since there was nothing wrong, Ning Shu didn't disturb them. Those divine envoys shouldn't be able to find them here for the time being. There was enough time for them to cultivate. Therefore, sometimes the way of heaven kept giving sweet dates to these children of the way of heaven. Of course, you had to do something. He hoped that Yi Lin would become stronger soon. With the increase of the number of living creatures, projects like refining soul fluid would be impossible. The more living creatures there were, the more souls there would be. It would be very convenient to refine soul fluid. Unless some souls escaped and entered the world of samsara, those souls would be turned into soul fluid. This world needed someone to stop this kind of behavior. Yi Lin was born for this purpose. Ning Shu slowly floated up the cliff and ran around looking for soul fluid. Basically, every town had a device to refine soul fluid. Basically, there was some soul fluid. Ning Shu originally wanted to buy a map. With a map, he could do space jumps and save a lot of time. But he didn't have a map yet. Chapter 2686. The 5 major cities had been destroyed, and the population had migrated to various parts of the world. A new map had not been made yet. It would probably take decades before the places where humans gathered could be marked out again. If they lived in seclusion, it would be even harder to find them. Ning Shu really did not want to waste time looking for some soul fluid. After exiting the second level, he held the umbrella and looked at the Black 9 Palace Mountain. He did not know what the world above was like. Should he go to the 4th level to take a look? The 4th level was a bizarre world. It was also a desert. He did not know if he could enter it. Ning Shu pressed his hand on the stone wall and tried to enter the 4th level. He felt repelled, but he still squeezed in. He felt like he was about to be squashed into a flat paper. After entering the 4th level, he saw souls full of vitality. Ning Shu relaxed. At least it was not a barren and lifeless world. Ning Shu held the umbrella and flew in the sky. From afar, he could see towering buildings. These buildings were a little Western style. There were castles. Seeing that there was a town, Ning Shu landed and walked into the town with an umbrella. Ning Shu originally thought that he would see a scene of people coming and going, but the scene in front of him was really something that Ning Shu had never seen before. The streets were very lively, and there was a hubbub of voices. But strangely, some creatures with human bodies but animal heads were walking people with ropes in their hands. The people were tied by iron chains around their necks, and the other end of the chains was held by the beastmen. Of course, there were also beastmen walking. Ning Shu did not expect this scene. These beastmen had human bodies, snake heads, dog heads, cat heads, and even lion heads. There were also some extremely ferocious that Ning Shu could not recognize. These beastmen with human bodies and animal heads were also wearing brocade clothes and swaggering on the streets. Some were in palanquins, and the palanquins were carried by humans. Of course, there were also human palanquins carried by beastmen with human bodies and animal heads. Ning Shu was speechless. What kind of world was this? A world where humans and beastmen enslaved each other? Ning Shu didn't care who was enslaved. Most of the time, this was a world where strength was everything. Ning Shu sensed the aura of the humans who had enslaved the beastmen. They were very powerful. Those beastmen who enslaved humans all looked ferocious and frightening, and they were not weak either. Of course, there were also cases of humans enslaving humans and beastmen enslaving beastmen. Ning Shu was more curious about the soul. In a world without reincarnation, where did the soul of this world go? Ning Shu didn't see any souls on the streets. Where did his soul go? Ning Shu couldn't help but stare at an orc with a dog's head as he passed by. His view of the world collapsed. A human with a dog's head? Are you sure this isn't some kind of genetic mutation? Without understanding the situation of this world, Ning Shu planned to first understand the basic situation so that he would have a rough idea of what was going on. How could he understand? As a country bumpkin, of course she would go to a tea house or a restaurant. There were humans setting up stalls on the streets, and there were also orcs setting up stalls. In the brothels, there were human prostitutes soliciting customers, and there were also orc women with unsightly hairy faces. Some orcs even had tails. Ning Shu guessed that the human women should have orc customers, and the orc women should also have human customers. This strange and variegated world. It was obvious that the two races were living in peace. Of course, it was also possible that they didn't get along very well. There would always be conflicts. Ning Shu didn't believe that the two races would love each other, especially since humans were very exclusive. Those who weren't of their race were bound to have different hearts. It seemed that these orcs weren't weak, which was why the humans made such a compromise. He didn't know what was used as currency in this world. Ning Shu walked to a stall, took a fancy to a jade hairpin and asked, "What's the price?" The stall owner spoke in a gibberish, and Ning Shu couldn't understand what he said. Ning Shu was speechless. So he had to learn the language again after coming to this world? Since he couldn't communicate with words, he could communicate with his consciousness. Anyway, he could communicate with intelligent creatures. These were all intelligent creatures. 1 Qian coin, said the stall owner. What kind of currency was a Qian coin? There was no introduction to the plot. Coming to a new world, he must be confused. Ning Shu, I don't have any Qian coins on me. Can I use something else as a replacement? Ning Shu took out the spirit stone. He didn't know if spirit stones could be used in this world. It seemed that this world could cultivate, so spirit stones should be usable. The stall owner saw the spirit stone in Ning Shu's hand, rubbed his hands, and said that he couldn't change it, so he could use this as a replacement. Of course, he was babbling, but Ning Shu couldn't understand. He could only communicate with his consciousness. Fortunately, spirit stones could be used in this world. Ning Shu gave the spirit stone to him and accepted the hairpin. You don't have to change the rest. I have something to ask you. The stall owner happily accepted the spirit stone. When he heard Ning Shu's words, although he hadn't heard the language he was speaking, he strangely understood it. The stall owner felt that he might have developed some amazing talent, a talent for languages or something. Ning Shu said that he was a country bumpkin and had never seen anyone running around with this kind of animal head. Was it a PY? The stall owner saw that Ning Shu was so generous and thought that country bumpkins were really easy to trick. Moreover, country bumpkins were so inexperienced. For a moment he told Ning Shu about the things in the city. Those who stared at the heads of ox heads and horse faces, all kinds of animal heads, and the riders were beastmen. In the beginning, this world didn't have these. It seemed that there were spirit beasts that turned into human forms one after another, and had sex with human women or human men. Then, these half-human, half-beast creatures were born. In the beginning, humans were quite frightened and began to kill these creatures on a large scale. However, these creatures had a talent for cultivation. In the end, they grew into an existence that could compete with humans. These beastmen no longer felt ashamed of animal heads and swaggered around. Moreover, beastmen were divided into two forms. When fighting, they could turn into their animal forms and use their animal fighting instincts to increase their strength by a lot. Usually, they would turn into human forms. Some would turn into elegant young men and young women. Those who weren't strong enough would run around with animal heads. Every beastman race had different habits. The pig race was ugly. They ran around with a pig head. How beautiful could they be? Also, the lion race was strong. Of course, the human race's cultivation talent was also strong. No one could do anything to each other, so that was how it was. After Ning Shu heard this, he thought that he was still in the magic world from before. The world where he became a skeleton had beastmen. He didn't expect that there was a beastman world in Nine Palace Mountain. It could only be said that this world was very chaotic. At the same time, it followed a rule, and that was that the strong were respected. Those who were weaker could only be reduced to wage laborers. In fact, almost all worlds were like this. It was just that the strong and the weak weren't so obvious. If someone ruled, someone would be ruled. Chapter 2687. Ning Shu understood the basic situation. This meant that the beastmen had existed for about the same time as humans. Moreover, the beastmen's fertility was shocking. They could give birth to a few in a litter, inheriting the genes of many animals. Then how did they give birth to so many souls? If she remembered correctly, the Nine Palace Mountains reincarnation world was abnormal, only leaving and not entering. How did the beastmen have so many children? Did all the wandering souls enter the beastmen's stomachs? But there weren't many souls on the Nine Palace Mountain. Ning Shu was most concerned about the soul problem. Now that there was the reincarnation world, souls could enter the reincarnation world to be reborn. But the souls from before? How did they deal with the souls that had accumulated for so long? Ning Shu didn't see a single soul on the streets. She didn't see any soul guards either. It seemed like a soulless world. Even fireflies, insects that lived in the morning and died in the evening, had souls. It was just a matter of the strength of the soul. Ning Shu asked, "What about the soul?" "What soul?" the vendor asked. He seemed even more confused than Ning Shu. Could it be that this world could be reborn? But without removing the poison in the soul and the memories in the soul, even if one was reborn, they wouldn't be a new person. Or were the souls of this world absorbed by the heavens and earth? Ning Shu scratched her head and asked the vendor. She was very confused. She felt that this world had many secrets waiting for her to explore. "That one over there," a pig-headed man pointed at Ning Shu. "The one holding the umbrella." Ning Shu turned around and saw a pig-headed man. He suddenly appeared in front of her like a pig head on a chopping board. Ning Shu patted her chest and took a deep breath. It was her second senior brother. "Why did you call me?" Ning Shu asked. The pig-headed man said, "My master invites you." The pig-headed man pointed at the window on the second floor of the restaurant. Ning Shu looked up and saw a snake sticking out of her collar. This snake's head was flat, like a cobra. It flicked its tongue at her. Ning Shu shivered. This world was really challenging her worldview. She had never encountered such a world before. Ning Shu asked the pig-headed man, "Why is your master looking for me?" Could it be that he had taken a liking to her flower-like beauty? "You want to kidnap a civilian girl? Didn't he see that she was a soul?" The pig-headed man made a snorting sound, just like how a pig would make when it was eating. Pigmen were probably the most famous for their ugliness. "My master wants to treat you to something. Let's go up." The pig-headed man reached out his hand to pull her. Ning Shu quickly took 2 steps back. The stall owner wanted to say something but hesitated. However, he still packed up his stall and hurriedly ran away. It could be seen that the owner of this pigman was not someone to be trifled with. That's right, how could a poisonous snake be trifled with? Ning Shu still had to investigate the problem of the soul, so he didn't have the time to tangle with poisonous snakes and pigs. Holding the umbrella, he turned around and left, giving a warning glance at Viper upstairs. The venomous snake flicked its tongue, revealing 2 sharp fangs. Its cold eyes stared at Ning Shu. Ning Shu patted his chest. "I'm so scared." Ning Shu casually found a spatial node and disappeared. The pig-headed man scratched his head. She was clearly in front of him. How did she suddenly disappear? Since he didn't invite the beauty up to eat, his master would definitely blame him. On the other hand, the poisonous snake seemed to have sensed danger. It raised its neck and prepared to attack. It suddenly disappeared. He didn't expect that woman to be so strong. Ning Shu appeared on the other side of the city, using the water enchantment to conceal himself. Ning Shu didn't want to cause any trouble since he didn't understand this world clearly. Why were there no souls in this world? Where did all the souls go? Without the world of reincarnation, there was no rebirth pool that could allow souls to reincarnate. Did souls disappear for no reason? In this world, living beings didn't live together with souls. When Ning Shu asked about souls, the stall owner was at a loss. This meant that he didn't know what Ning Shu was talking about. Maybe he knew that there were souls, but he probably didn't understand why Ning Shu asked about souls. Could it be that someone had the ability to collect all the souls? Even if he did, there would be some that escaped. How could he collect all of them? The invisible Ning Shu looked at the humans and beastmen that walked past him. There were all kinds of beastmen. Some had cow heads, some had goat heads, some had bird heads, and some had eagle heads. In short, he didn't see any souls. Coincidentally, he walked past a house. Ning Shu faintly smelled the scent of blood. He scanned with his spiritual energy and found that a pig-headed woman was giving birth. Her belly was shockingly big. At this moment, she was panting in pain. Her husband was so anxious that he didn't know what to do. Ning Shu removed the enchantment and knocked on the door. The husband was originally worried about his wife. When he heard someone knocking on the door, he ignored it and comforted his wife. But the knocking didn't stop. The pig-headed man had no choice but to open the door. Suddenly, a pig-headed man appeared. Ning Shu comforted himself to be calm. This world was like this. He hadn't seen all kinds of worlds. How could he have a worldview? The pig-headed man saw a woman in red with a white umbrella. How could a human appear at his door? This kind of person was obviously a young lady from the human side. Ning Shu said, "I was passing by and felt the scent of blood in your house, so I asked about it." Why did he ask? The pig-headed man said very straightforwardly, "My wife is giving birth, so please leave. I can deliver the baby. I can help you take a look at your wife." Ning Shu didn't wait for the pig-headed man to agree and directly stepped over the threshold. The pig-headed man saw a pair of snow-white feet under the red dress. Didn't the young lady wear shoes? When the pig-headed man reacted, Ning Shu was already in the room. There was an indescribable monster in the room. It was probably a place where the pig-headed man lived. Maybe it was clean. There was no bed. The ground was covered with some dry, withered grass. A pig-headed woman with a big belly was lying on the ground. She was holding her belly and groaning in pain. Blood flowed out from under her body. Although she had a human body, her habits were similar to a pig's. It seemed that her IQ wasn't high either. She was definitely not as strong as the orcs. Ning Shu closed the umbrella and walked to the pig-headed woman's side. He squatted down and stretched out his hand to touch her belly. Her belly was bulging and trembling. Obviously, the children in her belly were moving. The belly was frighteningly big. Ning Shu used his spiritual power to scan it. There were actually 5 children in it. No wonder her belly was so big. 5 children required 5 souls. Where did these souls come from? Just like the world on the first level, before it became the world of reincarnation, the newborn population was so small that it made people think that the human race was about to go extinct. Chapter 2688. But why were these beastmen so good at giving birth, especially the lower-level beastmen, such as pigs, dogs, cows, sheep, and so on? There were also those who were oviparous, a nest of eggs. Where did these souls come from? The pig beastman groaned in pain. The scene was really a little challenging. Ning Shu said, "Relax, the child at the front is stuck." The child that was supposed to be born first could not be born with its feet down. It was stuck, and a few children were rebelling in the stomach. The pig beastmen were not a race that liked cleanliness. When Ning Shu was smoothing the stomach, He did not know if his hands were stained with food or feces. Anyway, the smell was not very pleasant. In fact, Ning Shu also wanted to see if these children had souls when they were born. The pig beastman's husband was very anxious. He hurriedly asked Ning Shu if there was a way. 4 low-level beastmen like them, even if they died, no one would care. Of course, there would be people who would deliver the babies, but they were unwilling to come because they thought it was tiring to give birth to so many pigs. Ning Shu spent a lot of effort smoothing out the baby's stomach. There were so many babies inside, and everyone was kicking and kicking them. This made it difficult for Ning Shu to deliver the baby. But there was a pig beastman beside him who was chattering non-stop and groaning. Ning Shu did not discriminate against species, but a pig head in front of him made Ning Shu's worldview a little difficult to digest. The beastmen of this world had not come into contact with the magical world. If they had known, they would have trained their courage. Ning Shu felt that it was not strange for billions of planes to give birth to all kinds of planes and creatures. He just did not expect 9 Palace Mountain to have such a world. He did not know how strange the world in this plane was. Shut up, aren't I smoothing it? Although he had mental power, it was still very troublesome to move his hand along the layer of the belly. Especially with the slightest movement, the pregnant woman groaned in pain and her whole body trembled. The belly was also a space. Since it was a space, there should be a space node. Ning Shu looked for the space node, and then under the pig beastman's horrified gaze, he reached his hand into his wife's belly. There was clearly no hole in the stomach. How did she reach her hand in? Ning Shu felt a burst of warmth in his hand. His hand had already reached into his stomach. In that instant, Ning Shu understood a little. This was a spatial channel being established. The spatial passage allowed her to reach her hand into her stomach. It was much more convenient to reach into the belly and pull out the baby. Under the effect of spiritual power, the baby that was born first was finally straightened out, and then the baby was born. Ning Shu asked her to exert more strength. She gritted her teeth and struggled with all her might. Finally, she succeeded in giving birth to a child. The child was born with a human body and a pig's head. When Ning Shu saw the child's appearance in the womb, he was not surprised. He could not see the child's soul. When the child was born, the pig's husband hurriedly found a piece of cloth to wrap the child up. Was this really not Piggy Pay's family? With Ning Shu's help, the 5 piglets were successfully born. Rows of withered grass on the ground. Ning Shu also reached out her hand from her stomach, but the swine woman's stomach was still intact. There were bloodstains on his hand. Ning Shu condensed water to wash the blood off his hand. Then, he had the mood to look at the piglets that were wrapped up until only their heads were left. Even the newly born piglets had hair on their faces. There was also a black birthmark on their faces. However, this birthmark was not considered ugly on a pig's body. If it was a human, it would definitely be ugly. After all, there were many black and white pigs. The pig's husband brought in a bucket of food for his tired wife to eat. The pig's wife struggled and buried her head in the bucket. Ning Shu was speechless. This was a human, right? She had the head of an animal and her living habits were all animals. She was an animal, but she had a human body. This world was really fun. The food they ate was boiled vegetable leaves. Was this not pig food? This was pig food. While the pig's wife was eating, Ning Shu untied the cloth on the pig's body. He saw that the pig was a girl and had the characteristics of a girl. Ning Shu's consciousness invaded the pig's consciousness, wanting to check the pig's soul. As long as it was a living creature, it had a soul. However, the pig's soul was tainted. The soul of a newborn should be the purest, but the pig's soul was tainted. Could it be that the souls in this world could be reborn without going through the rebirth pool? The gray soul had obviously not been purified by the rebirth pool. Ning Shu frowned. What was going on in this world? What kind of situation could make the soul not enter the world of reincarnation and directly be reborn? This world was a little awesome. It was both a world of living creatures and a world of reincarnation. But even so, the soul was still tainted. The pig's husband saw that Ning Shu was not letting go of his child and asked carefully, "Is there a problem?" "No problem." Ning Shu handed the child to him. "When will the child grow up?" Beastmen grow very quickly. The growth time of different races is different. The pig's husband answered all the questions. If it was not for this person, his wife and child might have died. Do you want to stay for dinner? The pig's husband asked. Ning Shu looked at the pig's wife who was buried in the bucket and had mud all over her face. He shook his head and said, "After all, I helped them give birth. I might come to visit them often in the future." The pig's husband nodded without thinking. Of course, of course. Ning Shu was speechless. He did not know how to talk. What did he mean by of course? Just by looking at the pig's face and IQ, Ning Shu felt that the pig's life should be quite miserable. In addition to their slovenly appearance, not many people would want them even if they were to work for others. Ning Shu placed his finger on the pig's child's forehead and used the water droplet to make a mark on her soul. This could track the whereabouts of the child's soul after she died. Ning Shu felt that it was true. If one did not go through the rebirth pool, their memories of the past would still exist. If they were to be reborn like this, wouldn't the world be in chaos? X, I am your father in this life. X, you are my wife in this life. When did you become a man? X, the hatred of killing my father and stealing my wife is irreconcilable. Give me your life. I will never forget it in this life and in the next life. Ning Shu was speechless. Just thinking about the messy scene made him feel unusually speechless. Could it be that everyone had agreed not to forget the past in advance? How could this be possible? People did not have any regrets or obsessions in their lives. If their memories were not erased, they would definitely complete their obsessions. It was a headache. Such a world did not follow common sense. Ning Shu was bald and could not lead them. The pig's husband rummaged through the cupboards at home, trying to find something valuable to thank Ning Shu. But there was nothing. The four walls of the house were bare and they slept on withered grass. How could there be anything valuable? /BK. Chapter 2690. Ning Shu couldn't get anything out of the kobold's mouth. Was there no execution at the Meridian Gate here? It was normal to have life and death in this world. He also asked about the orcs. Who is the strongest orc now? The king of the Orc Empire. The orcs and humans were equals. Humans had kings and countries, and the orcs wouldn't fall behind. The orcs would do whatever the humans did. Although they were imitating the humans, they were still disgusting to the humans. Don't do what I do. Although they were in conflict, no one could destroy the other. This confrontation was probably deliberately maintained by the heavenly Tao. The two races formed the most colorful brush stroke in this world. Ning Shu touched his chin and pondered. He couldn't figure it out. After Ning Shu left, the kobold hurriedly closed the shop and ran to report that the woman wanted to break out of prison. The very honest and loyal kobold quickly reported the matter. When Ning Shu was wandering on the street, she was surrounded by a group of wolf-headed guards. Ning Shu, did something happen that she didn't know about? Why did they want to capture her? There was a difference between a wolf and a dog. These guard wolves had a valiant aura, which made them look especially ferocious. Ning Shu asked, "What crime did I commit? Are you trying to break out of prison?" Ning Shu, was there something wrong with them? They wanted to capture her without confirming whether she wanted to break out of prison. Besides, if she really wanted to break out of prison, she should have done it first. She just asked where the execution ground was, and the kobold ran to report it to the authorities. This IQ, Ning Shu wanted to facepalm. Wasn't the kobold afraid that she would go back and cause trouble for him? She had to admit that she had gotten herself into trouble. She felt that the orcs' thinking was different from humans. This was purely a mistake and an unexplainable one. Ning Shu held the umbrella and said calmly, "Are you sure you want to stop me?" "My father is." Ning Shu's expression was meaningful. "Aren't you afraid of being punished?" The wolf-headed man stared at Ning Shu. "You don't look like a good girl." Ning Shu was speechless. She wasn't a good girl? How could they tell that she wasn't a good girl? Were these wolf-headed people blind? The corners of Ning Shu's mouth twitched. "How am I not a good girl?" He's barefoot. With the color of his clothes, it's obvious that he's unrestrained. The wolf-headed man was very proud of his observation. Ning Shu was speechless. Hee, If I don't want to wear shoes, I won't wear them. I'll wear whatever color I like. Although the wolf-headed man was very proud, his eyes were full of cunning and calmness. Ning Shu held the umbrella and spun around. I like to dress like this. I only asked about the location of the execution. You guys are so stupid that you think I'm going to break you out of prison. Where's the evidence? Whether there is evidence or not, we will know once we capture him. Ning Shu was speechless. It was so simple and crude. It felt like the orcs were definitely favored by the heavens for being able to live until now and fight against humans as equals. They learned the laws of humans and learned how to manage the people, but they only learned a little. It was just that there wasn't any big trouble. Once there was trouble, the situation would almost be out of control. It was also because this world followed the principle of the strong being respected. The strong managed the weak, and the weak didn't dare to have any rebellious thoughts. However, humans were different. They were all humans. If you could do it, so could I. They competed with each other. Of course, there were also Buddhists who didn't fight or snatch. Their hearts were as calm as water. Ning Shu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He didn't want to get into a conflict with humans. Next time, he would ask the humans if he had any questions. He always felt that the orcs seemed to be lacking in brains and retained more of their animal habits. Ning Shu held the umbrella. I won't argue with you this time. I'm leaving. The wolf-headed man. Hee, you still want to run after being surrounded? Did you really think that they were vegetarians? If they caught a human committing a crime, especially a woman, the higher-ups would definitely praise him. Actually, the orcs, especially the strong ones, liked human women. Human women had delicate bodies, soft skin, and soft facial features. They looked better than orc women with all kinds of heads. To change a human head, one needed to be strong. This human woman looked good. But she suddenly disappeared, right under their noses. It was useless even if they surrounded her. Or did she use some kind of magic? Humans had always been cunning. Chase after her. Catch this human woman and you'll be heavily rewarded, the wolf-headed man said quickly. Not only did she want to break into the prison, but she was also a beautiful human woman. She was very valuable. No matter what race, they all had the instinct to reproduce. The orcs' reproduction instinct was especially strong. When they were reproducing, of course, they would look for beautiful and comfortable ones. When he heard the kobold report that a human woman wanted to break into the prison, the wolf-headed man had a plan in his heart. The orcs didn't have an easy life. They had to compete with humans for survival resources. The strong always had more resources. If they wanted to live a good life, besides climbing up, they had to please the strong. The things that leaked out from between their fingers were enough for them to live a good life. In order to survive, there was no other way. Ning Shu left with a space jump. In order to avoid trouble, she directly turned invisible and wandered around the city. Of course, if she couldn't avoid it, a battle would be inevitable. There was no reason for her to keep hiding. She had misspoken. She didn't expect the kobold to be so straightforward. She asked to break into the prison. If she said she wanted to kill someone, then she would really kill someone. Would she be a prisoner? After staying in the city for a while, Ning Shu looked around for people or orcs who were about to die. She wanted to know where the soul went, so she used her mental power to scan along the way. After walking through many places, he saw an old minotaur who had died with tears flowing down his cheeks. The surrounding taurens were helpless. They watched the old tauren walk towards death. The scars on his body and his rough hands were proof of the tauren's hard life. Ning Shu quickly used a water droplet to make a mark. When the time came, she would track the whereabouts of the soul. The tauren's big eyes were half closed, and his breath was getting weaker and weaker. Ning Shu was very nervous, waiting for the soul of the tauren to leave the body. The tauren's body trembled twice. Finally, his eyes closed, and there was no more breath of life. A soul left the tauren's body, but then the soul disappeared. Disappeared? Ning Shu was a little puzzled. The soul disappeared just like that? Where did it go? Ning Shu carefully sensed the mark left behind and found that the mark engraved on the tauren's soul was still around. She was a soul, but she couldn't see the soul? Ning Shu pinched her finger and opened her heavenly eye. Only then did she see the Tauren's soul. Ning Shu. Could it be that the souls here had a special magnetic field that ordinary people couldn't see? Chapter 2691. Was this the reason why she didn't see the soul? The Tauren's soul was at a loss and drifted aimlessly. Although the Tauren himself didn't have a destination, he seemed to be pulled by some force and drifted in one direction. Ning Shu hurriedly followed the soul. He turned his head and floated to a house. This house was filled with tall buildings and looked like a rich family. The Tauren floated straight in and Ning Shu followed him in. The Tauren floated in front of a woman in a daze. This woman was dressed in brocade and had a head full of pearls and jade. She looked like a rich wife. At this moment, her stomach seemed to have formed a black hole and sucked the Tauren in. The Tauren entered the woman's stomach. Ning Shu saw this scene and his jaw almost twisted. What was going on? This was reincarnation. He had just died and entered someone else's stomach and started a new life. There was no afterlife pool, no poison in the soul, and no memory in the soul. Was he going to be reborn just like that? He had never seen a world that was so playful. At the same time, Ning Shu was sure of one thing. The soul of the world didn't go to the world of reincarnation. There was already the world of reincarnation. Why didn't they deal with the soul in the world of reincarnation? They dealt with it so simply and crudely. And why didn't their memory erase? But these people didn't remember their previous lives. If they really remembered, the world would be in chaos. Was there a reason for this? Ning Shu had a headache. Ning Shu released his spiritual power and looked at the woman's stomach. There was a life in her stomach. It used to be a Tauren. After rebirth, this Tauren who had lived a hard life would become a rich man's son or daughter. And Ning Shu's imprint was still in the Tauren's soul. Ning Shu was speechless. In short, he felt very speechless and confused. If this could be done, why would there be a world of reincarnation and an afterlife pool? That was it. The Tauren died and reincarnated as a human. Then, when the human died, would he reincarnate as an orc? How were they intertwined? So far, there was only one case of an orc reincarnating as a human. It wasn't convincing. Then, she had to track the pattern of the dead humans and orcs reincarnating. She suddenly felt like she was doing research. Ning Shu, please call me Ning Shu, a professional who seeks the truth. After Ning Shu opened his heaven's eye, he discovered that there were actually souls floating everywhere on the street. However, they seemed to be in another dimension and didn't interfere with each other. Even Ning Shu, the true soul, did not sense their existence. Ning Shu quickly marked these souls. If these souls were reincarnated, they would be able to find the pattern of reincarnation between these humans and beastmen through a large number of investigations and collations. Ning Shu held a small notebook and a pen in his hands, ready to record the grudge. Situation. These souls didn't wander much before they were sent to the afterlife. Ning Shu ran from one side to the other. Fortunately, he could teleport and sense the location of the mark. Then, he located the spatial node and appeared at the place where the soul was reborn. Ning Shu was extremely busy. He spent a lot of time synthesizing the results of the investigation. He came to the conclusion that the souls of humans and orcs were intertwined. If it was an orc in this life, it would be a human in the next life. Ning Shu marked the souls. The orcs were reincarnated into the stomachs of humans, and the souls of humans were reincarnated in the orcs' stomachs. There was no exception. In this life, it was a human. In the next life, it was an orc. In this life, it was an orc. In the next life, it was a human. This was how the souls of humans and orcs were exchanged. And the state of the soul was the state it was in when it died. If it was a human, it was a human soul. If it was an orc, it was an orc state. So, he came to this conclusion. Ning Shu still didn't understand why there were no memories. No memories. Ning Shu scratched his head. The pool of reincarnation didn't remove the memories. Since there were memories, why could it make people unable to remember their previous life? Ning Shu really wanted to interview them one by one. Do you remember your previous life? Ning Shu was really tired. Teleporting was exhausting. Fortunately, After training, the distance of the teleportation had increased. Ning Shu sat on the steps invisible. Behind him was a rich family. Just now, a dog-headed person had entered this family. At the same time, he also saw a person in brocade clothes reincarnate as the stupidest, dumbest, and ugliest orc. Well, Ning Shu realized that there was still some information to be unearthed. The more powerful and wealthy they were, the more likely they were to reincarnate as lowly orcs. However, some information wasn't complete. Powerful orcs also had intelligence comparable to humans. There were even wise ones who were smarter than humans. She was only counting the ordinary ones. Find the strongest orc, the ruler. Squat at the foot of the wall like a thief peeping at others. Then she came to a marriage. The more powerful and intelligent the orc was, the more difficult it was for them to have children. Because there were no souls floating to these female orcs. How could living creatures be born without souls? On the other hand, those who weren't very intelligent gave birth in groups. The lifespan of orcs was short. The longest was 20 to 30 years, and the shortest was 10 years. They were originally humans, but they became orcs for a period of time. When they died, they were born as humans again. Ning Shu slapped his thigh. An idea appeared in his mind. The more he thought about it, the more it seemed like this was the case. That was, whether orcs or humans, they were all humans in essence. What was the existence of orcs? They were a transfer station for souls. Orcs had low intelligence. Because of the characteristics of their race, they only thought that survival and reproduction were an existence dominated by their instincts. They were also a little more intelligent than those pure beasts. When their intelligence was limited, so what if they remembered the past? Even if they remembered, it was just a dream. The stupid orcs still lived like beasts. When they turned into humans, it was meaningless. In a short 10 years, or even a few years, what past could they have? What past did ants have? Ning Shu suspected that orcs were born to dilute the past in their souls. Some souls were very, very strong. They couldn't become pure beasts. Thus, orcs that were like humans and beasts were born. They could carry the souls of humans, but at the same time, they had the stupidity of beasts. However, the souls were still worn down. The slightly weaker souls really reincarnated as beasts, or even smaller souls, until the soul disappeared. This was a sealed world. The souls of a world digested themselves. At the same time, no new souls came in. Then, the heavenly axiom of each level of the 9-Palace Mountain was different. It was different and had different rules. Chapter 2692. Faced with a situation where there was no world of reincarnation, different measures were taken. The first level of the world turned souls into soul stones. As time passed, the population would decrease, and so would the number of souls. Souls that wandered for too long would become wandering souls. Wandering souls had no thoughts of their own, and were naturally absorbed into soul stones. The second level directly dealt with the souls by force. Of course, there were benefits to be gained. Dealing with the souls could strengthen one's own soul. As for the third level, she was still a baby, and had yet to be born. On the fourth level, there was a soul transfer station. Now that everything was settled, the next thing was to connect this world to the world of reincarnation. If the heavenly axiom was a person, Ning Shu would strangle him, kiss him, and walk out of the house to take a look. There was already a world of reincarnation. But how to connect? Ning Shu felt a little numb. This world was too tiring. There were no gains at all, not even a trace of soul energy. Not only did she not gain anything, she was also as tired as a dog. It was not worth it. She had gained some benefits from the previous worlds, but in this world she could not even poke a needle into it. Such an awesome operating mode, she had to maintain it. Perhaps after connecting to the first level of the world of reincarnation, these beastmen would disappear. These beastmen were born for the sake of the heavenly axioms disappointing human children. With the intelligence of the beastmen, it was definitely the heavenly axioms' favoritism for them to be able to compete with humans until now. In the end, it still favored humans. Humans were the most intelligent and emotional. A little emotion could be carved into their bones. If she did not erase this feeling a little, the world would be a mess. Ning Shu opened the black hole and planned to leave the fourth level of the world. Even if she could solve it now, she did not have the ability to do so. Jumping through space was so tiring that she wanted to vomit. She went back to rest. Back in the system space, Ning Shu closed the black bone umbrella. The surface of the umbrella was a little gray. Were these all dirty things? Would the white umbrella turn into a black umbrella in the future? Dirty things were everywhere. She had to check the expiration date of the umbrella. After that, it would be useless. Ning Shu opened the chat system, intending to ask His Excellency how to connect the worlds to the world of reincarnation. The first level of the Nine-Palace Mountain could not hold on any longer, so it sacrificed itself to become the world of reincarnation to help the other worlds. Ning Shu went against his conscience to praise Abyssal Prefect Qin Ye's flowers. Abyssal Prefect, you've decided to plant flowers for me? Ning Shu said. I'm still an ordinary person who is constantly on the move. I can't calm down and cultivate my sentiments. I can't be a gardener now. She was no longer a Buddhist girl who didn't fight for anything and had a heart as calm as still water. Ning Shu said, I want to know how the world of living beings connects to the world of samsara. Ning Shu sadly found that there were no benefits. She still had to find a way to connect the world on the fourth level to the world of samsara. It would have been fine if he didn't know, but now that he knew, he couldn't just ignore it. Who asked Nine-Palace Mountain to be in the world of reincarnation? It's me, no, it's the Soul Pearl. Back then, it was the Soul Pearl that absorbed the Nine-Palace Mountain. If one of the worlds in the Nine-Palace Mountain had a problem, it was hard to guarantee that it would not affect the other worlds, or even the world of reincarnation. Ning Shu's face was smiling, but his heart was pounding. Abyssal Prefect, you should ask other people about this. If you ask, many people will answer for you. If you ask me a question, you'll owe me one more favor. Those people built the world of living beings. If the living beings want to be reborn, they have to be connected to the world of samsara. Ning Shu, damn, thank you for thinking about me. You're just too lazy to tell me. Why don't you want me to owe you a favor? Lazy person. People have to work hard, they have to be injected with chicken blood. You can't live such a depraved life. Ning Shu didn't disturb Abyssal Prefect. His flowers were more important. Her life was worse than that of a flower. Ning Shu opened the Big Boss group. I'll send a red packet to warm up the atmosphere. Every time I send a red packet, it's 5,000 points of faith. And they complain that it's too little. Ning Shu didn't plan to snatch it after sending it out. She couldn't snatch it anyway. She didn't know how these people were so fast. The king of luck this time was someone called Zhong Chang. She didn't know him. There were hundreds of big bosses in the group, but she didn't know many of them. Fortunately, it wasn't Tai Shu, the king of luck, who blocked her and took her red packet. He was the king of luck, the person who received the most red packets. Ning Shu was probably going to vomit blood. After sending the red packet, Ning Shu began to ask how to connect the world of living beings and the world of souls. Ning Shu thought in her heart that it was probably to build a space channel. It was originally a closed world, so a space channel needed to be built. And it wasn't just building one. After all, souls went in and out, and it was easy to get stuck in traffic. You couldn't ask souls to go to the right, right? Seeing Ning Shu's question, many people helped to answer it. It was similar to what Ning Shu thought. Together with the world, an invisible but real space channel had to be built so that souls could enter the world of rebirth. At least 2 of them had to be built. As for how to regulate which side to go in and which to go out, this was the matter of the world's heavenly Tao. It sounded very easy, but Ning Shu's current space ability, it wasn't enough to create a space channel for one world, let alone 2. Therefore, she would have to wait for the 4th level. Sometimes, Ning Shu felt that the heavenly Tao of the 4th level was a little evil. The more prosperous a person was, the more they would become miserable, lowly, and low IQ orcs, working hard and being enslaved. The difference was like the difference between heaven and earth. There was probably a set of trial rules inside. Speaking of which, The way the fourth level was handled was relatively perfect. At least, it guaranteed sustainable development. Tai Shu, your lousy small world can connect to the world of living beings. Didn't His Excellency warn you? Ning Shu really wanted to roll her eyes, but she held back her anger and said, although it's a small lousy world, I'm willing. It was connected to the world of the Nine Palace Mountain, not the world of living beings of the mission enforcers. She still knew this. Besides, her little understanding of space now couldn't connect to the world of living beings. Tai Shu, when the world breaks, you won't even be able to pick up the fragments. You still have to trouble the organization. You don't know what your world is like. You're biting off more than you can chew. Ning Shu, that I'm just asking, who said that you want to connect to the world of living beings now? Ning Shu, no, I'm bloated. More than 200 kilograms. Tai Shu, damn fatty. And he came out and said, although I haven't seen what your small lousy world looks like, you still have to listen to the old man. If you don't, you'll suffer. Old man? Ning Shu felt that and he was here to add salt to the wound. Ning Shu, I'll get angry with whoever mentions the small lousy world again. Who did her small lousy world offend? The small lousy world also had the determination and confidence to connect to the world of living beings. Although it was small now, it didn't mean that it would be small in the future. Chapter 2693. It was actually very simple to connect the world of reincarnation and the world of living beings. Making a space channel was equivalent to building a road. But it was also very difficult. One had to have a deep understanding of the law of space and use it freely to make a space channel. She had just comprehended the law of space and was a rookie. It was very difficult for her to connect to the world of reincarnation. So the fourth world would wait until she comprehended the law of space and had a deeper understanding. And he said, I didn't mention the small broken world. Why are you so angry? I'm advising you. Let's see who can be more anxious than the other. Ning Shu chuckled. You're still talking about the small broken world. He couldn't bear to hear those words. Senior uncle said, do whatever you want. If you cause trouble, just kill her. Ning Shu just rolled his eyes, disgusted. Ning Shu said, I said I want to connect to the world immediately. Are you blind? Can't you see? Senior uncle said, idiot. With that, he went offline. Ning Shu said, fuck, don't go offline if you dare. What's the point of personal attacks? And he said, you have such a bad temper. Young man, you need to cultivate your character. Ning Shu said bluntly, you have a big temper. You should cultivate your body and mind more. And he was speechless. He had a gun even when he was lying down. Ning Shu exited the chat system. Ning Shu went to the space city to comprehend the law. There was nothing wrong with comprehending more. There was one more thing, and that was the star stone. She didn't know how long the star stone could last. But she couldn't even pick up the trash. She didn't even have a chance to pick up the leftovers. Comprehending the law of space could not only connect to the fourth level, but she could also pick up the trash. She couldn't pick up the rule fragments, but she could pick up ordinary fragments. When connecting the planes, she could pick up 1 or 2 drops of liquid star stone. She felt very satisfied. It would be great if she could find an orange crystal again. The high temperature could evaporate the law of nothingness. Ning Shu had been comprehending the law of space for a long time. He started from the space channel he set up when he delivered the pig's wife and then extended it. At least a 1-meter-long channel was extended. The spatial passageway was invisible and intangible. It existed, yet it could not be touched. It was like a ghost. Of course, he could also understand some of it. The twisting lines were formed by spatial nodes. Points formed lines and lines formed space. Space nodes were the most basic existence. As long as one used space nodes reasonably and established a connection between them, one would be able to construct the space he wanted. The size and shape of the space would be fine. That was what he thought. Theoretically speaking, it was still very simple. However, this move If the laws of space were so difficult to comprehend, how difficult would the laws of time be to comprehend? After an unknown amount of time, Ning Shu expanded the space channel from 1 meter to 1.5 meters. The improvement wasn't great, but Ning Shu was so tired that he felt like vomiting milk. He felt like his spiritual energy had been emptied. She felt that her mental power was not enough and had reached a bottleneck. Normally, when she used her mental power, she could cover an area of 1 mile. However, when it came to comprehending the law of space and constructing the spatial passageway, he clearly felt that his mental power was insufficient. Was there any way to increase his spiritual power? He felt that if he could break through this bottleneck, his mental power would be greatly enhanced, and it wouldn't be so difficult to comprehend the law of space. Ning Shu returned to the system space. The sound of the alarm clock and the voice of the chat system were both ringing. It made Ning Shu, who originally felt like his body had been emptied, feel even more empty. He had never felt that 2333's voice was so cheap. Ning Shu ignored the sound of the alarm clock and the sound of the chatting system. He first lit some agarwood. Only after smelling the agarwood did he feel less tired. Ning Shu crossed her legs and opened the chat system. It was a message from the Cheongsam man, Zuli, your water city is about to flood Jinshan. What are you doing? Hurry up and deal with it. Otherwise, you'll suffer. When Ning Shu saw this message, she bounced up like a spring. Fuck Water City. It had been a while since she went to Water City to reinforce the barrier. She was so busy that she was dizzy. Oh my god. Ning Shu saw that the main system had sent her a message, asking her to deal with it. Grand Uncle, there's a problem with Water City. Aren't you going to solve it? She was still muted? He could send her a message, but she couldn't send him one? Ning Shu rushed to Water City as if her butt was on fire. As soon as she entered Water City, she felt the thick water vapor. There was a hole in the barrier, and the water outside the city flowed into the city. The scene was really like the Milky Way falling from the 9th heaven. The water in the city had reached the height of her calves. Ning Shu face-bombed. When she saw Grand Uncle in a black coat standing next to the water column, she wanted to face-bomb even more. She immediately drained the city's water from the barrier hole, repaired the barrier, and evaporated the water vapor in the city. Ning Shu felt very guilty. This was her job. The water had already seeped into the shop, and this was only a small hole. If the entire barrier was broken, the entire Water City would be destroyed by the roaring law of water, and Water City would cease to exist. If there was a problem with Water City, there would naturally be no mission enforcers coming to comprehend the law. Ning Shu hit her head. She had been so busy recently that she forgot about it. She didn't know what punishment there would be. She would go to Wood City later. If there was another problem with Wood City, the organization would probably deprive her of her position as the city lord. Although there was no tax for 100 years, she wouldn't be restricted because of her position as the city lord. Grand Uncle walked to Ning Shu and stared at her condescendingly. If you don't want to do this job, there are plenty of people who can do it. You should abdicate as soon as possible. There's no tax for 100 years, so the management is lax? Grand Uncle asked. It actually made sense. If there was a fixed time to collect taxes, she would definitely come to the city to collect taxes. If there was any abnormality with the barrier, she would definitely notice it. However, she could only think about it in her heart and not say it out loud. Moreover, she was indeed wrong in this matter. Ning Shu couldn't defend herself, so she didn't speak. Grand Uncle said, "Silent resistance? Then we won't do it. Take out the City Lord medal." Ning Shu immediately said, "I'm not resisting. I'm just ashamed. I love the organization and the City of Water as my own home. I'm willing to dedicate my youth and life to the organization and the City of Water." Grand Uncle snorted. "You'll let water enter your house?" Ning Shu had nothing to say. Grand Uncle said coldly, "If there's a next time, hand over the City Lord medal and add 100 years of tax." Ning Shu admitted defeat. Got it. There was no difference between 100 years of tax and 200 years of tax. It would take a long time anyway. This time, it was mainly because she had stayed in Nine Palace Mountain for a long time and comprehended the law of space. Even if there was something, she would run to Wood City. Going to Wood City could let the law of Wood imprint absorb energy, and the aura of Wood City was relaxing. BK. Chapter 2694. It seemed that a mandatory quest had to be set. Every time she completed a quest, she had to check the 2 cities. The grand uncle stared at Ning Shu, making Ning Shu tremble with fear. She felt that he wanted to kill her. She could feel a faint killing intent. But this time, it wasn't a big problem. Ning Shu immediately said, "There won't be a next time." The grand uncle disappeared in an instant, and Ning Shu immediately collapsed and strengthened the barrier. Then, she immediately left Water City and went to Wood City, reinforcing the barrier of Wood City while she was at it. After that, Ning Shu returned to the system space and opened the chat system, only to find that the main system had sent a punishment. Main system, depriving mission bearer 2,333 of taxes from Wood City and Water City for 100 years, a fine of 1 million merit points as a warning to others. Moreover, this punishment had been announced everywhere, and the news had been repeatedly sent to the law incarnations. It was as if they were punishing the chicken to warn the monkey. The law incarnations group chat was flooded with this punishment, for fear that others wouldn't see it. Ning Shu, that she wanted to cover her face. She usually didn't have much interaction with the law incarnations, but now every law incarnation probably knew her. No taxes for 200 years, and a fine of 1 million merit points. This was a huge number. If it weren't for the 18 million merit points she received from carrying living beings, Ning Shu really wouldn't have been able to pay the fine of 1 million merit points. She would definitely have had to sell soul power or soul origin. Ning Shu treasured these things very much now because they were non-renewable resources. Now, 9 Palace Mountain was basically out of resources. Used less and less. The man in the Cheongsam sent a message of sympathy. Take it easy. At least you weren't stripped of your City Lord medal. I thought you would be obliterated. Aren't you still alive? Money is just a worldly possession. But what are you doing? You don't even care about the cities. Ning Shu said bitterly, I was too busy, so I forgot for a moment. She took a small notebook and wrote a work log, or she would always forget in the future. One mistake, 100 years of taxes gone, and 1 million merit points gone. She didn't even have the face to announce it everywhere. Ning Shu gritted her teeth, annoyed. She was a little too focused. Should he also set up an alarm clock so that he could remind her when the time came? Zhu Li, how could you forget that? I'm impressed. 666. Ning Shu was speechless. Why don't you try not paying taxes for 100 years? Worthless things would be subconsciously forgotten by the brain, and then it would be busy with more important things. Zhu Li, many people in the Law Incarnation group are saying that you didn't lose your City Lord's medal. This should be considered a major mistake, yet he was still made the City Lord. Ning Shu replied, What else can I do? I'm a proper embodiment of the law of water, after all. You can't just take away my City Lord's mark and make me work for nothing, right? After the scare, Ning Shu calmed down. If he really took away her City Lord medal, how could he let her work for 200 years in vain? Ning Shu opened the Law Incarnation group, and everyone in the group was discussing her punishment. For some reason, Ning Shu had an indescribable resistance to the Law Incarnations. Perhaps it was because of the incident with Hong Yu back then, and these people's sarcastic and sour words. Perhaps it was because the flow of people in different law cities was different, and the business of the shops was also different. This was directly related to the City Lord's taxes. In the same law cities, some people had a lot of taxes, while others had a little. These differences were enough to make people feel uneasy. Especially since Ning Shu was the City Lord of 2 law cities, it was enough to make him feel a little indignant. She wasn't erased, nor was her City Lord medal confiscated. It was just a light punishment. Ning Shu sneered. Light punishment? Let's see if it's light punishment for 100 years in vain and 1 million merit points. Even if she really did lose her City Lord medal, they were talking as if the City Lord's medal had fallen on their heads. Ning Shu closed the Law Incarnation group and simply blocked this group. He was too lazy to browse. It was probably because the atmosphere didn't match, so he wouldn't browse. If there was anything, Zhu Li would inform her alone. Ning Shu thanked the man in the Cheongsam. After all, he came to inform her. Although it was just a simple sentence, he wasted his effort to inform her. Zhu Li, you saved my life. I should repay you with my body. Ning Shu, you saved my life. I will repay you with all my might in my next life. Sigh, she didn't get the star stone, and now she was punished with 100 years of taxes and 1,000,000 merit points. She couldn't imagine how much money she had lost. She couldn't think about it. Thinking about it made her heart ache. After wandering around for a long time, it was time to do missions again. She didn't want to do them. She was in a bad mood now, so she couldn't do them well. She should take a break. Ning Shu lay on the sofa and closed her eyes to rest. No matter what, it had already happened. No matter how upset she was, it was useless. Fortunately, it was only a fine. If she didn't have anything to rely on now, she would have been erased. Suddenly, she felt that all the hard work and suffering were worth it. At this moment, she was rewarded. Even if the judge wanted to kill her, he had to be wary of Nine Palace Mountain and the world of reincarnation. You can't do anything to me. Of course, there might be a day when she made a serious mistake and moved Nine Palace Mountain away. Therefore, she had to keep increasing her bargaining chips and make herself more important so that others wouldn't dare to touch her easily. The harder she worked, the luckier she got. Ning Shu now truly felt the privilege that came from being strong. She didn't let down the hard work of crawling forward. Ning Shu smelled the agarwood fragrance and fell asleep. She didn't know how long she slept, but she heard 2333's voice again. Missions? You haven't done any missions yet? How long has it been? You haven't done any missions. Yes, I did one. Ning Shu opened her eyes. Nonsense, I did too. 2333, this is something to be proud of. What's the difference between 1 or 2? Ning Shu heard 2333's blabbering the moment she woke up. She was sick of 2333's voice. Oh, you gave me such a big surprise the moment I woke up. I'll report it. 2333 chuckled. Ning Shu, 2333 looked up to the sky and said worriedly, looks like you really can't do without me. Ning Shu, shut up. Her ears were ringing. 2333's voice was so exaggerated that she could hear it ringing in her ears. She was hallucinating. 2333 was even more worried. See, without him, her life was a mess. Ning Shu ignored 2333's worries and asked, how's your harvest this time? She didn't believe that she didn't get anything after sleeping for so long. She didn't know how much soul power 2333's meteoric cloud system had provided. Ning Shu asked curiously, don't you need to send the system's soul to the main system to be purified? 2333 indicated that this was a language trap. If she didn't pay attention, she would fall into the trap. It was hard to answer at all. /BK. Chapter 2695. No matter if she answered or not, the other party would only know that there were souls in the wild system. Can you absorb impure souls? Ning Shu raised her eyebrows and asked. Yes, yes, no, no, no. Why was it so hard to answer? It needs to be purified, 2333 said. Ning Shu nodded and opened the exchange store. She began to exchange for fasting pills and prepared to do missions. After all, she had just made a mistake. If she didn't have enough missions, she would be punished again. What if she was reported again? Would she still want her face? Forget it, she didn't want it. It was tiring to live with her face. She exchanged for some fasting pills and said, Mission, 2333, forget it after asking. I thought that he would ask for soul energy from me. 2333 sent Ning Shu away. Ning Shu felt that she had merged into a body. Soon she merged, but her head was dizzy and her face was burning with pain. His heart was like a boiling kettle, but the lid was forcibly pressed down, and his body was about to explode. Ning Shu opened her eyes and saw a man who was panting and staring at her with his eyes wide open. This man was wearing a cheongsam from the Republic of China and a pair of glasses. At first glance, one could tell that he was a knowledgeable intellectual. He had a mustache on his lips, which made him look elegant and mature. But at this moment, his face was red and slightly twisted, as if he had been humiliated. Ning Shu immediately formed a word in her mind: domestic violence. Her face was burning. If it wasn't this man who hit her, could it be that the client hurt herself? Feng Jia, if you insult Yu Binglan again, I will teach you a lesson. Qi Hongchang pointed at Ning Shu, swung her Chong Sam, and turned to leave. Ning Shu touched her face gently and got up from the ground. She would endure it for now and deal with it later. Mom, why are you so stupid? Why did you say bad things about Auntie Binglan? Dad always beats you. So, this was a common occurrence. Ning Shu looked at the little girl in front of her. This was her daughter. How could a daughter talk to her mother in such a tone? Ning Shu was a little drunk when he saw the look of disappointment in his eyes. He quickly pulled a chair and sat down. Qi Yingmeng said to Ning Shu, Mom, can you not be so stupid? Ning Shu immediately felt his heart swell with pain. He looked at her coldly. You're my child. You can't be that smart. Qi Yingmeng immediately stomped her feet and fluttered away like a butterfly in her old sea dress. She had been angered by Ning Shu and left. Ning Shu poured a cup of tea and grimaced in pain. Half of his face was burning. After drinking 2 mouthfuls of warm tea, he hammered his chest. There was a breath of air in his chest that made his heart feel very uncomfortable. It was stuffy, but there was nothing he could do to make himself feel better. Ning Shu began to accept the plot. His expression was a little indescribable. In this world, as long as love was born, it would not be restricted by age, identity, status, or morality. At that time, the sea was intoxicated with luxury, and all kinds of new and old ideas alternated. There were rich people who had groups of wives and concubines, and there were also people who followed free love and pursued the new idea of platonic love. They pursued monogamy. The client, Feng Jia, married Qi Hongchang, the owner of an art gallery. Qi Hongchang had studied abroad and had Western ideas. Sometimes he could not even talk to his wife, Feng Jia. No one in the world understood his loneliness. Until a divorced woman broke into Qi Hongchang's life. This was a woman who used her thoughts and soul to paint. She was a woman full of wisdom and spirituality. She was full of poetry and painting, and her heart was full of passion and warmth. She was not necessarily beautiful, but she was elegant, refined, and fresh. She had thoughts, depth, and insight. She was the kind of woman that any thoughtful man would be tempted by. Yes, Qi Hongchang was a man with thoughts and connotation. A bunch of beautiful words were piled up on her. Her self-indulgence was almost like this. And the client, as Qi Hongchang's wife, was originally a virtuous wife, but she became a superficial, vulgar, domineering, and ignorant shrew. She was often slapped by Qi Hongchang. She was really stupid, really stupid. It was really satisfying to hit her. Yu Binglan and Qi Hongchang tangled and struggled. Everyone was in pain. In the end, Yu Binglan ran away in order not to hurt Feng Jia and her daughter. From then on, Qi Hongchang's heart was no longer poetic and picturesque. Ning Shu was speechless. Then shouldn't he thank Yu Binglan? Those beautiful words came from Feng Jia's daughter, Qi Yingmeng. Ning Shu felt that something was wrong. She was afraid that she had come to a more brainless world. The child actually praised the third party who wanted to destroy the family. Although the child might not necessarily feel the mother's pain, seeing the mother in pain, she should hate the intruder. But it was also a sin to sing praises to the intruder. Touching his face, it really hurt. Although Yu Binglan left in the end, she became a distant and poetic image in Qi Hongchang's heart forever. The client was just a living widow, a cold husband. After Yu Binglan made a fuss, she didn't want to be a concubine. Instead, she chose to run away. The reason was that she didn't want to hurt anyone. Using true love as the reason for cheating, she pushed the blame to the original wife. You are vicious, you have no thoughts, you are domineering, you are a shrew. Ning Shu had experienced so many worlds and realized that the original wife was really a scapegoat. What did the original wife do wrong? Could it be that the family was destroyed, and she wasn't allowed to be angry, desperate, and questioned? Otherwise, you are not virtuous, You are a shrew, you are domineering. The client was still such a person. When the person who slept beside him had a dog outside, even if there was nothing wrong with you, you could scold him into a pile of problems. Ning Shu touched his face and remembered Qi Hongchang in his heart. This wasn't the first time. After Yu Binglan appeared, the client was often slapped in the face. In the eyes of others, it was unreasonable, slandering Yu Binglan, or calling Yu Binglan a bitch. Every time, it would attract a slap. The client was afraid, desperate, and in pain. Until the war broke out and the sea was conquered. Qi Hongchang fled with his wife and daughter, but when he fled, he was separated from Feng Jia. At that time, the situation was turbulent, and Qi Hongchang wouldn't look for Feng Jia. Moreover, he and Feng Jia were already tired of each other. Feng Jia was a woman. How could she survive in such a chaotic world? Naturally, she couldn't survive. She went to a church, but in the end, the invaders broke in and she died under the bayonet. The client looked back on her life. It was a tragedy. Before Yu Binglan appeared, her husband had a successful career and her daughter was smart. But things changed. Her family was broken. Her husband didn't like her, and her daughter wasn't considerate. /BK. Chapter 2696. Feng Jia sometimes suspected that Yu Binglan was here for revenge, but she didn't know Yu Binglan at all. And after Yu Binglan divorced her husband, she went to the sea and got entangled with the gallery owner, Qi Hongchang. The client's life was really like duckweed, not controlled at all. Because of the era, the people in this era were living precarious lives, and the country's territory was facing the situation of being divided and invaded at any time. Also, the family was broken. They were separated and they were alone. Everyone was afraid of death. Even if Qi Hongchang didn't look for his wife, it was understandable. Husband and wife were birds in the same forest, but when disaster came, they flew away separately. Moreover, they didn't have any feelings for each other. But back then, the man who caused a lot of trouble and looked at other people's men, in the end, he still acted like he didn't want to hurt them and their children. But they met after that. Well, without the client's existence, it was expected that they would get together naturally. But what about the client? The client couldn't even express his wishes clearly now. After experiencing extreme despair, when he asked people what he wanted, he couldn't say any wishes when his heart was dead. Ning Shu drank a few cups of tea in a row, and only then did he suppress the irritation in his heart. Recently, he had been frustrated everywhere, which made his mood very bad. He had been in the same place, and many things that he wanted to solve didn't go smoothly. There was no progress at all. The problem of the world of samsara was the problem of the disaster beast, who knew when the disaster beast would be formed again. As for the method of making skeletons, there was no way. There was also the problem of the virtual law. He couldn't get the star stone, and there was no progress in the comprehension of the law of space. It was far from enough to build a passage. First, he wanted to pick up rubbish, and second, he wanted to connect to the 4th level of the 9-Palace Mountain. There were so many tasks piled up, and he was getting busier. In the past, he only needed to do tasks. Now, he didn't have enough time, and it was a very busy matter. Time waits for no one. He said that he would leave the matter to time, but time probably didn't care about him. Ning Shu took a deep breath and silently chanted the clear heart mantra in his heart to calm himself down. As a person, the most important thing was to be happy, happy, happy. Ning Shu covered his face and went back to his room. The maid found some ice for Ning Shu and let Ning Shu cover his face. The cold sensation on her face made her feel a little more comfortable. Ning Shu laid down on the bed and began to practice his peerless martial arts. This was the background of the Republic of China. Modern industrialization had yet to begin, so there was still some spiritual energy. However, at this time, the entire world was in a state of war. The 5 elements of the plane were a little chaotic, causing the spirit chi to be chaotic as well. After a period of chaos, everything returned to normal. Ning Shu absorbed the spiritual energy and removed the impurities. Take your time to complete the mission. Your mood is very important. I need to be calm. The rules of this world were suppressed again, so he couldn't use it. At least he still had a peerless martial art to practice. He was satisfied. Besides, there were firearms, bombs, and guns in this world. Some things had the ability to protect themselves. First, they had to endure the country's pain. After taking a nap while cultivating, Ning Shu's mood became slightly better. She asked the maid to prepare the meal and waited for the father and daughter to come back. Without guessing, they probably went to find Yu Binglan again. Qi Hongchang must have gone to look for Yu Binglan, but she didn't know if Qi Yingmeng had gone to school or if she had gone with her father to look for Yu Binglan. Anyway, Qi Hongchang was with Yu Binglan without any doubt. In modern terms, Yu Binglan was Qi Hongchang's Venus, a goddess. He heated up the food twice. When it was dark, the little girl, Qi Yingmeng, came back. Qi Yingmeng was about 17 years old now and was studying in a new school. Ning Shu called her over for dinner. Qi Yingmeng walked to the table, looked at the home-cooked food, sat down and said, "Mom, I ate with my classmates at a Western restaurant. Western food is small. You probably aren't full. Eat some more." Ning Shu put some food in her bowl. Qi Yingmeng didn't say anything. She picked up the chopsticks and started eating. Seeing the palm print on Ning Shu's face, she asked, "Mom, is your face okay?" "It's okay. It's not very serious. It's so painful that my head feels like it's going to explode. But I can bear it. What do you think?" Ning Shu said lightly. "Qi Yingmeng, was it serious or not?" Qi Yingmeng put down the chopsticks and sighed. "Mom, why do you have to be like that in front of Dad? You know that Dad likes Yu Binglan, but you still call her a bitch." Ning Shu's face was gentle. "Because Mom is angry. No matter how angry you are, you can't be so hysterical. You lose your image and make Dad hate you. No wonder Dad likes Yu Binglan." Was it heartbreaking? Especially when it came from her daughter's mouth, it was even more heartbreaking. How could she talk about her mother with such a calm and bystander attitude? Okay, maybe the client really did perform too badly. Even if her husband was stolen, she shouldn't be angry and angry. She shouldn't be angry when her husband and daughter sided with an outsider. Ning Shu was still smiling. Indeed, Mom didn't do well. But Mom doesn't feel guilty and her conscience doesn't hurt. After all, the person who did something wrong is not me. Qi Yingmeng blinked. Her eyelashes were long and curly, like a doll's. Why did these words sound so weird? Qi Yingmeng couldn't say that her mother did something wrong. She just ate silently. Actually, Mom, Dad is a person who accepts new ideas. What he pursues in his heart is a soul mate. Ning Shu nodded. So, Mom can try to accept Yu Binglan. After all, a man like Dad has several concubines. Ning Shu swallowed his food and drank a mouthful of tea before saying slowly, "Child, when your father looks for other women, you use new ideas as an excuse. What soul mate? You want me to accept that woman, but you use tradition to ask me, saying that other people have several concubines. Feelings, new ideas, old ideas, are all your reasons. This is a new idea that you learned in school. What kind of new idea was this?" Qi Yingmeng was young. Now was the time for a young girl to yearn for love. Anyway, as long as it was love, there was no right or wrong. Status, morality, and law couldn't restrain love. Some people said that marriage was something that humans invented to deceive themselves. But without this self-deceiving thing, humans would probably have no ethics and morality. They would be wild like animals and do it blindly without regard for seniority. They wouldn't be favored by the heavenly Tao. They could choose not to enter the besieged city. What a simple thing. Qi Yingmeng's face turned green and red. She was obviously a little angry from embarrassment. She was angry, but she couldn't say anything to refute. /BK. Chapter 2697. Qi Yingmeng was in her adolescence and had a strong self-esteem. Ning Shu didn't intend to fight with her to the death. He changed the topic and asked her about her situation in school and if she had any friends. But Qi Yingmeng was obviously not interested. Ning Shu could see that she was not convinced. But this was the client's daughter. She was his flesh and blood, and he had loved her for more than 10 years. Ning Shu was still willing to pull his daughter to his side. The client should not be willing to be separated from his daughter. Ning Shu asked with a smile, Yingmeng is now a big girl. I don't know what kind of boy you want to find in the future. Qi Yingmeng's face was red. She looked very good and beautiful. Ning Shu put a bowl of soup in front of her. Qi Yingmeng drank the soup and said, of course it has to be like-minded. Soul compatibility is more important. Ning Shu nodded. That's good. But what if someone who shares the same ideals as you suddenly shares the same ideals as someone else one day? Qi Yingmeng turned to look at Ning Shu. She put the spoon in her hand heavily into the soup bowl, splashing 2 drops of soup on the table. Mom, I can tell that you are mocking me with the matter between Dad and Yu Binglan. Qi Yingmeng frowned and said, since they are soulmates, there will be no time for them to separate. Qi Yingmeng stood up and said, it's just that you and Dad are not soulmates, and you met Dad first. Yu Binglan appeared at the wrong time in Dad's life, so it caused a tragedy for the 3 of you. I thought that you had really thought it through and wanted to calmly face this matter. Dad and Yu Binglan are in love. This is the truth. Ning Shu thought, as a person, the most important thing is to be happy. She is not my daughter. Why should I be angry? I don't love or hate. My heart is as still as water. I am a Buddhist. Ning Shu just said, I have thought it through. Sit down and continue eating. Who told you to throw the chopsticks and bowl? The soup is everywhere. You eat like this in a Western restaurant. The maid quickly cleaned up the soup on the table. Qi Yingmeng sat down again. I'm very sorry. Ning Shu, I accept your apology. Until the end of dinner, Qi Hongchang did not return to the residence. He was probably in Yu Binglan's small courtyard. However, it was a little awkward for the mother and daughter to be together. Qi Yingmeng returned to her room. Qi Yingmeng didn't want to stay with her mother. Anyway, whenever she talked about her father and Yu Binglan, she would become very agitated. Her mother, who used to be virtuous, had now become like a crazy woman. Unruly, ignorant, and willful. There was simply no way to deal with Yu Binglan. She faintly pitied her father for having such a wife. Although she was her mother's daughter, she looked at things from a fair and just point of view. Fortunately, they did not have a big fight. Otherwise, her mother would scold her for being ungrateful and not siding with her. In all fairness, the 2 of them really couldn't do anything. Qi Hongchang didn't come back that night. Ning Shu was sleeping soundly by himself. She didn't know if Qi Hongchang and Yu Binglan had applauded for love. Ning Shu didn't think so. After all, the 2 of them were pursuing spiritual Plato. Although Yu Binglan was a divorced woman, she wouldn't easily have that kind of relationship with Qi Hongchang. The most perfect thing was to yearn for something that couldn't be obtained. Although they were under the same roof, it definitely wasn't another bed. They were discussing painting and the realm of life. Who am I, where am I, and where am I going? The next day, Ning Shu tidied up, put on a cheongsam, and prepared to look for Yu Binglan. Yu Binglan still had some family background. She could earn some money by painting with her own thoughts. This was especially so when she met Qi Hongchang, who appreciated her. Every time Qi Hongchang looked at Yu Binglan, he would have a look of amazement. In addition, she had divorced her ex-husband and received some alimony. She didn't have to live a poor life. In Qi Hongchang's eyes, divorce wasn't a stain on Yu Binglan's life at all. Instead, it was a symbol of her soul's freedom and courage. Although there were a lot of Westerners nowadays, a woman dared to divorce. How courageous was that? How commendable was her courage? In short, Yu Binglan was good at everything. Ning Shu took a rickshaw to Yu Binglan's house and knocked on the door. Yu Binglan was the one who opened the door. She was wearing silk pajamas. The belt was loosely tied around her waist, outlining her beautiful and exquisite curves. When Yu Binglan saw that it was Ning Shu, she was surprised. Qi Hongchang's voice came from the house. Binglan, who is it? As soon as he finished speaking, Qi Hongchang also appeared at the door. When he saw Ning Shu dressed up, he immediately frowned. How did you get here? I took a rickshaw here. I have something to discuss with Yu Binglan. Ning Shu said. Qi Hongchang immediately roared. Are you going to be a shrew and curse in the streets again? Are you going to embarrass yourself outside again? Yu Binglan immediately said, Hongchang, don't be agitated. If there's anything, I'll handle it. Don't make a scene. There were so many neighbors around. She didn't want these gossipy old ladies to talk behind her back. These old ladies in the alleys loved to gossip about the owner the most. Although she and Chi Hongchang lived under the same roof, they were both innocent. Yu Binglan changed her clothes, and when she came out again, she was a beautiful white magnolia, just like the white magnolia of the sea, beautiful, pure white, and fragrant. What spiritual energy, poetry, intelligence, that disgusting thing. Where do you want to talk? A cafe? Yu Binglan asked calmly. She didn't look guilty or angry at all. Chi Hongchang looked at Ning Shu warningly and said, "You better not make trouble for no reason." Ning Shu, "Oh, who are you?" Ning Shu and Yu Binglan went to a cafe. They each ordered a cup of coffee and the two women confronted each other. Ning Shu looked at Yu Binglan without any scruples. Yu Binglan picked up the coffee and avoided her gaze. Ning Shu said, "I heard that you are divorced. Do you have children? Where is your family?" Yu Binglan frowned. "Madam, are you here to ask about me? I believe you know everything about me. Don't ask me more questions." Ning Shu, "Damn, so arrogant. In front of your true love, shouldn't I feel ashamed of my inferiority?" Ning Shu said, "I know about you and Chi Hongchang. If you are talking about Chi Hongchang spending the night at my house, I can tell you that nothing happened between us. There was nothing dirty like you think." Yu Binglan said straightforwardly. She looked as pure as ice and jade, and her soul was shining brightly. Ning Shu said, "I know that you spent the whole night looking at the stars and the moon. You talked about poetry and life ideals." Yu Binglan didn't expect Ning Shu to say this. She was stunned. "It's good that you understand." /BK. Chapter 2698. To be honest, I don't want to hurt you and Ingmeng. I like Ingmeng very much. I'm friends with her, Yu Binglan said. Regardless of whether you believe me or not, I'm telling the truth. Ning Shu also smiled, looking like she would believe whatever she said. Be Chi Hongchang's concubine. What? Yu Binglan was really surprised. She asked as if she was hallucinating, "What are you talking about?" Ning Shu said, "I'm fulfilling your wish. Your true love really moves me to tears." Yu Binglan's expression was a little strange. "Do you really think so?" "Of course not. I think if I continue to argue with you, Chi Hongchang will divorce me. In order to please Chi Hongchang, I have to fulfill your wish," Ning Shu said directly. Hearing her words, Yu Binglan heaved a sigh of relief. She was compatible with Chi Hongchang, but if she was really moved and helped her and Chi Hongchang, she would feel uneasy. Hearing her words, it made sense. Yu Binglan looked at Ning Shu with pity in her eyes. "If that's the case, why don't you get a divorce? If you're forced to be together, you'll be uncomfortable, he'll be uncomfortable, and I'll get a divorce." "I'm divorced, but I'm still alive and well," Yu Binglan said. Ning Shu smiled. "That makes sense. That's true. So, do you want to be Chi Hongchang's concubine or not?" Yu Binglan, she was trying her best to persuade her, but she was still obsessed with the matter of being a concubine. "It's easy for you to disagree. Chi Hongchang likes you very much. In the past, I couldn't control my temper and made him hate me even more." Yu Binglan looked hesitant. In the end, she shook her head. "Sorry, I can't promise you." "Why? Don't you love Chi Hongchang?" Yu Binglan shook her head and said, "Whether I love him or not is different from whether I'm a concubine or not." Ning Shu was surprised. "Do you want to be the first wife?" "That's my bottom line. I can fulfill your wish with Chi Hongchang, but I will never give up my position as the first wife. Don't you love Chi Hongchang very much? Your spirit and soul are very compatible. You can't even make such a small sacrifice for Chi Hongchang? Or do you not love Chi Hongchang at all?" Ning Shu's words were like firecrackers, interrogating Yu Binglan, which simply gave Yu Binglan a headache. The current Feng Jia was even more difficult to deal with than the shrewish Feng Jia from before. Previously, when she was making a fuss, it would only alienate her husband from her family. Who would have thought that getting close to a crazy woman would cause her to explode? Now, Feng Jia seemed to have realized her mistake and wanted to make up for it. She wanted to curry favor with Qi Hongchang, but in the end, she was made a concubine. Wasn't a concubine a concubine? What was the meaning of using her to please Qi Hongchang? Yu Binglan was a little upset. Yu Binglan's expression didn't look good. Ning Shu drank his coffee and looked at her. Yu Binglan didn't care about the position of the legal wife. Yu Binglan's unyielding soul didn't agree to it. Think about it carefully. The door will be open for you at any time. I believe that Duoqi Hongchang will be very happy to know about this. Ning Shu, I'm very virtuous, not domineering, not a shrew, not ignorant, and very generous. Yu Binglan looked at Ning Shu suspiciously. Are you serious? Of course, if we continue to make a fuss like this, both of us will lose. So, I agree. Your true love is invincible. I'm defeated by your true love. I surrender. Ning Shu's tone and intonation were obviously in line with Yu Binglan's aesthetics. A trace of smugness flashed across Yu Binglan's face. Ning Shu reached out and held her hand. So, be Qi Hongchang's concubine. The door of the cafe was pushed open. Qi Yingming walked in and looked around. She had thought that it would be a chaotic scene. She would see two women pulling each other's hair like crazy, but she didn't expect to see two women holding hands. It was a peaceful scene, like a scene of sisters. Qi Yingming felt as if she hadn't woken up yet and was still dreaming. She received a call from her father early in the morning, urgently asking her to come here, saying that Yu Binglan had met her mother. She was afraid that the two of them would fight. Every time her mother saw Yu Binglan, it was as if Mars had crashed into Earth. She was like a frightened cow with firecrackers hanging from its horns. She went crazy. But to be honest, who would like such a person? To be honest, it was very embarrassing to have such an uneducated mother. Her mother wasn't like this in the past. If it was said that her husband was stolen by a woman, those rich people, those military families, and those rich people in gangs, which one of them didn't have a few concubines? Even the first wife of that family wasn't as bad as her mother. Her husband looked at her as if she was a ghost. What was her mother doing? But the harmonious scene in front of her was like a dream. Yingming, why are you here? Come here. Ning Shu waved at Qi Yingming. Qi Yingming walked over. It was a little unreal, as if she was stepping on cotton. Yingming, I've thought it through. Let your Aunt Binglan marry into our family. In the future, we will be a harmonious family. It really felt like a dream. Qi Yingming felt that she might really be dreaming. She couldn't help but pinch herself. It hurt. Your Aunt Binglan has agreed to be your father's concubine. Are you happy? Ning Shu asked. Qi Yingming's face was full of doubt. She was screaming before, but suddenly her style changed. Ning Shu said, you guys talk. I'll go back first and prepare some things. Pick a date and tell me. Let me know early. Yu Binglan, why did it seem like it was already set in stone? She didn't seem to have said that she was really going to be Qi Hongchang's concubine. Previously, she called her a shameless bitch. Now, she agreed to let Qi Hongchang be with her. What was this called? Could it be that Feng Jia was possessed by some evil thing? It was so strange. Qi Yingming smiled and said to Yu Binglan, Aunt Binglan, congratulations on being with Dad. Your mother, Qi Yingming said, my mother's life at home isn't good. Dad doesn't like her more and more. It's probably because of this that he thought it through. Love is something that can't be stopped. I hope my mother has really thought it through. Yu Binglan said, actually, it's not that I don't want to hurt you and your mother. I'm thinking if I should leave. Qi Yingming quickly held her hand. Why leave? You can be with Dad. Why do you still want to leave? You said it. It's not easy to meet someone who can talk to you and know what the other person wants with just one look. Do you want to give up just like that? /BK. Chapter 2699. True love shouldn't be lost like this. Qi Yingming tried to persuade her instead. She really didn't want to see two people who loved each other separated like this. Qi Yingming was deeply immersed in it as if she was watching a romantic movie or novel. She didn't want the male and female protagonists to be separated at all and suffer the pain of love and lovesickness. Yu Binglan's face showed confusion, while Qi Yingming said firmly, You have to believe in your love. Ning Shu, who was standing not far from the coffee shop, was speechless. Oh my God? This girl must have been picked up from the streets. It was the time when young Fang Ai was looking forward to love. With such a pair of true love by her side, she broke through the layers of shackles of the world and finally got together. It was very touching, wasn't it? He didn't realize the changes and turbulence that Yu Binglan's appearance brought to the family. Ning Shu thought, well, what should I do next? She generously helped two people who loved each other. After marrying the Red Rose, over time, the Red Rose became a mosquito's blood on the wall, and the White Rose was still the bright moonlight in front of the bed. After marrying the White Rose was a rice dregs on the clothes, and the Red Rose was a cinnabar mole on the heart. Humans were creatures who always had beautiful thoughts about the things they lost and couldn't forget them. But after having the Red Rose for a long time, he would only see more and more flaws. Even if he was willing to tolerate and turn a blind eye, it was just a mosquito's blood on the wall. At that time, the Red Rose and the passion of the rose only made him feel more and more disgusted and annoyed. But the White Rose that he lost was more and more moving in his memories. The moonlight in front of the bed was pure and refined. Memories and distance were always beautiful, and if he couldn't get it, he would always be in turmoil. To put it bluntly, he was thinking about the pot while eating the bowl. It was best if he couldn't get it. Yu Binglan was the bright moonlight in Qi Hongchang's heart, the cinnabar mole. Finally, after the turmoil, they could still meet again, which made this love sublimate, firmer and deeper. True love was proper. What if they were together now? When encountering this kind of thing, one really had to be calm. Maybe the person involved couldn't calm down at all, so they would give their sole power to an outsider. Ning Shu, an outsider, was as calm as ice. Because he didn't love her, his heart didn't fluctuate, and even wanted to laugh. This was the legend of a man who had no desires. It had nothing to do with him, so he was calm and indifferent. If Ning Shu's world was about to explode, Ning Shu would probably explode along with it. Only when it truly concerned him would his emotions be affected, causing him to feel unbearable despair. Qi Yingmeng was the same. She treated herself as an outsider and ignored her mother's pain. Instead, she said that her mother had no manners, was overbearing, and was like an ignorant shrew. Her husband and daughter were blaming her. Was she right or wrong? Yu Binglan was clearly a little bitch, but her husband and daughter kept criticizing her. It was one thing to be betrayed, but why was it still his fault? It took a lot of willpower to remain calm in such a situation where the blood vessels were about to burst. Ning Shu breathed a sigh of relief. No matter how fierce she appeared on the surface, no matter how uncomfortable she felt, she had to maintain a trace of clarity in her heart. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to make a comeback. Unable to remain calm, he bit his tongue. When people can't stand you anymore, you can even make mistakes when you speak or breathe. The client had enough of the cold shoulder. Even when Yu Binglan left in the end, her husband still treated her like a pillar. He didn't say a word or even look at her. He just walked past her. How could these three people love each other? She had a lot of things to do next. In the end, the client died under the bayonet of the invaders, although she didn't know which bayonet it was. This time, she definitely couldn't let the client die again. Furthermore, she definitely had to take revenge. This country was wailing and crying. If you're willing to love, then go ahead and find something for the client to do. If you have something to do, then you won't think about these things anymore. Ning Shu touched his face. Of course, this slap had to be returned. Ning Shu carried a small bag and swayed in her high heels. The cheongsam outlined the woman's beautiful curves. She was gentle and beautiful. Ning Shu hummed a little song as she returned to the residence. She asked the servants to buy some red paper and colored paper and prepare more fruits and vegetables. She said that there would be a wedding at home soon. Ning Shu happily prepared for her husband's wedding. Not long after, Qi Hongchang and Qi Yingmeng came back together. Ning Shu was holding an exquisite cup of black tea and drinking tea. She touched the water that had been heated with pliers and then wrapped her hair around the pliers to curl her hair. At this time, the hairdressers all permed hair like this. Fortunately, her hair didn't burn. Chi Hongchang had obviously never seen such a calm wife and didn't know what to say for a moment. I heard that you agreed to let me be with Binglan. I agreed. I'm already preparing for the wedding. You can come to the residence anytime. Chi Hongchang sighed. Thank you for understanding my love for Binglan. Ning Shu nodded. I understand. When people reached the age, they would be calm and unperturbed. They were afraid that they would be old. Love could make people radiant. But Yu Binglan doesn't seem to want to be with you. She doesn't want to be a concubine. You two are true love. Why would true love care about these things? These things will only tarnish the true love between you two. Ning Shu put down the teacup and fanned herself. Chi Hongchang, so sarcastic. However, Chi Hongchang also had a plan in his heart. At his age, his daughter was already in her teens. If he divorced and married Yu Binglan, it would be inevitable that he would be laughed at. Although she was only here to be a concubine, he would always treat her well in this life. Now that Feng Jia was willing to take a step back and insisted that Feng Jia give up the position of the first wife, it would probably cause a huge uproar. They were all people with status. They would be laughed at for no reason. She didn't know how Chi Hongchang persuaded Yu Binglan, but Yu Binglan agreed to be a concubine. Although it was a concubine, the scene was not small at all. He invited all the people who should be invited and gave Yu Binglan enough face. From then on, Yu Binglan was considered Chi Hongchang's concubine. It was no problem for them to stick together every day. At this time, the two of them hadn't been separated for many years and hadn't reunited in the chaos of war. They had some feelings for each other. It was just that she didn't know how long this relationship could last. Ning Shu prepared the meal and waited for Chi Yingmeng to come over to eat. The maid returned and carefully said to Ning Shu, Madam, Miss is eating with Master in the concubine's room. Ning Shu frowned. How many times had this happened? Ning Shu didn't care about how loving Chi Hongchang and Yu Binglan were, but every day, he would ask his daughter, Chi Yingmeng, to eat with him. But obviously, Chi Yingmeng preferred to eat with Yu Binglan. They were a happy family with the three auspicious treasures. Ning Shu picked up his chopsticks and said, Bring this plate of stir-fried daylily to Mississippi/BK. Chapter 2700. The servant brought a plate of daylilies to the other side of the mansion. The concubine's room was in another place, a little distance away from the main room. Miss, Madam asked me to bring these to you. She said daylilies are crispy, the servant said. Chi Yingming looked at the daylilies and said, Thank Mother for me. The servant nodded and saw the family of three gathered together. The concubine was wearing a beautiful cheongsam. If she didn't say it, she wouldn't be able to tell that she was a concubine. Her dignified and elegant appearance was something that even some of the main wives couldn't compare to. Of course, this world was too chaotic. Warlords ruled separately. Some who were originally poor suddenly joined the army and became rich. They even became warlords who ruled over a region. The current situation was the same as the situation in ancient times when the feudal lords ruled over each other. These people suddenly became rich, so they naturally had to enjoy life. Their rural wives and illiterate wives were naturally disliked by these old men. They found all kinds of concubines. Madam was clearly the main wife, but she ate alone. These three people seemed to be a family. The servant's lips moved. She wanted to tell Chi Yingmeng that Madam had been waiting for her to eat. But with the master around, it was not her place to interfere in the master's matters. Life in the mansion was still very comfortable. Although she sympathized with Madam, she couldn't ruin her own livelihood. In fact, the servant couldn't understand. She was clearly Madam's daughter. Why did she mix with a concubine and lose her status for no reason? Although the Western concept of everyone being equal had spread in at this time, for ordinary people, there was still a difference in status. Chi Yingming's behavior was a bit unsteady in the eyes of the servants. When the young miss was going to get married, her mother would help arrange it since she was also the main wife. All kinds of things were related to how she would live in her husband's family after she got married. Although the situation in the Northeast was tense, in places that weren't affected by the war, the people still ate and drank. Therefore, the servant couldn't understand what Chi Yingmeng was thinking. Even if she was an intellectual, she was her own mother. Why wasn't she filial to her own mother after she studied? Of course, these were only the thoughts of the servants in the mansion. No one dared to say these things out loud. Moreover, the residence was managed by Madame inside and outside. If he said something that hurt Madame's feelings, he might have his pay deducted. I see. When the maid left, she saw the concubine affectionately putting food into the young Miss's bowl. The young Miss thanked the concubine. That intimate look made the maid feel inexplicably goosebumps. If something abnormal happened, it would be a demon. If something abnormal happened to a family, it would definitely not be a good thing. The maid came back and told Ning Shu that the dishes had been delivered. Ning Shu nodded and ate the dishes on the table alone. The maid looked at her with pity and disdain. Just like the concubines in the imperial harem, if you were to fall out of favor, who would fancy you? It was human nature to worship the strong and trample on the weak. Madam, would you like me to prepare some side dishes for you? The maid asked. Ning Shu shook his head. If he ate too much at night, he would not be able to sleep well. After eating and washing up, Ning Shu arranged the daily necessities of the house, including the wages of the servants and so on. Everything that was bought at home was recorded by the person who commissioned it. Every month, he had to get money from Qi Hongcheng. Ning Shu touched his chin. In this chaotic era, life was like grass. There were countless people who died in war and starved to death. In short, money was very important. So he had to get more money. Ning Shu jotted down some accounts, what he bought, how much he spent, and then kept some of the money himself. But this money was not much. Other than running the gallery, Qi Hongcheng also had some other businesses. The gallery was the biggest. Now should be the time when this nation worshipped foreign things the most. Because they were not strong enough, they worshipped the West. For example, a painting, as long as it was drawn by a foreigner and signed with a long list of names, it looked very high-end. It was very Western style. Perhaps they could not appreciate it, but in order not to be looked down upon, they pursued these things without culture and taste. It was like the ancient officials and nobles pursued calligraphy and painting. That was a kind of artistic conception. Buying a painting and putting it at home would make one look very Western style. Many uncouth people sold these paintings and put them at home. It was neither fish nor fowl. So, Qi Hongcheng was very rich. Buying guns and ammunition required money, especially in this era where medical treatment was backward. Medical resources were very expensive, and medicine was very precious. It was estimated that soon it would be time for an all-out war. Also, some of the country's precious cultural relics were destroyed and sent overseas. When the country settled down, it would cost many times more to get them back. The old summer palace had been ransacked, and many things had flowed away. In addition, after the founding of the country, there was a special period where these things were related to capitalism and speculation, and some of them were destroyed. So, money, money, money. Although Qi Hongcheng actually gave a lot of money to the family every month, compared to what Ning Shu needed to do, it was a drop in the bucket. Qi Hongcheng took a lot of money and moved the family. Later, he met Yu Binglan again, and the family of 3 went abroad to avoid disaster. In this era, the poor were so poor that they could not even eat, and the country was in turmoil. However, the rich lived a luxurious life. The 5 elements were chaotic, and the people's hearts were in turmoil. The people were not even united, and they harmed their own people. It should be the darkest period. Ning Shu touched his face. He still remembered that Qi Hongcheng had slapped him so many times. Although Ning Shu hadn't been slapped since she came here, the slap she received when she first came was so hard that she saw stars. He had to think of a way to transfer the couple's assets and take revenge. Ning Shu cultivated until midnight. He patted his hair and got out of bed, wearing empty silk pajamas. It was white, and his hair was fluttering. She was a living female ghost. He walked silently into Yu Binglan's bedroom. Qi Hongcheng and Yu Binglan were newlyweds, like Siamese twins. Dong dong dong, dong dong dong. The knocking on the door was particularly abrupt in the middle of the night. Qi Hongcheng was awakened. Yu Binglan whispered, "Who is knocking on the door?" Chi Hongchang was in a daze and walked towards the door. "Stop knocking, I'm coming." Chi Hongchang opened the door. He was originally in a daze, but when he saw the person knocking on the door, he woke up with a start. At first glance, it was no different from a female ghost. He rubbed his eyes and looked carefully at Feng Jia. He immediately said angrily, "Feng Jia, what are you doing?" Yu Binglan was tired. "Sister, we should find a doctor for Hongchang now. How could his face be so swollen?" Ning Shu was about to cry. "I didn't know it would be like this. Do you want to help Hongchang to the bed?" The two women helped him up, but Chi Hongchang pushed Ning Shu away. Ning Shu pursed his lips tightly. I really didn't know." "Sister, go find a doctor you can trust first," Yu Binglan said. Chi Hongchang's face was swollen like a pig's head. Yu Binglan couldn't bear to look at it anymore. If she looked at it more, she would have a thought. This was no longer the Chi Hongchang in her heart. She would have a strange feeling in her heart. Ning Shu hurried out and bumped into Chi Yingmeng, who had just come out of the bedroom. Chi Yingmeng was shocked. This wasn't the master bedroom. Why did Mom come out of Yu Binglan's room? How strange. Ning Shu asked the servants to find a doctor, looking uneasy. Chi Yingmeng asked, "Mom, what happened? Why do you need a doctor?" "I don't know what happened either. I hit your father." "Ah." Chi Yingmeng's eyes widened. Her expression was very strange. Mom hit Dad, then Dad hit her. Chi Yingmeng had never seen Mom lay a finger on Dad. She didn't believe that Mom had the guts. Chapter 2702. Chi Yingmeng went to Yu Binglan's room and saw her father's swollen face on the bed. She was shocked and asked Yu Binglan, "It was really my mother who hit him. Could she bear to? Didn't she love her father very much?" Based on what Chi Yingmeng saw, Yu Binglan and Chi Hongchang were truly in love. And her mother loved a man who didn't love her. It was sad and pitiful. Now that her mother hit her father might dislike her even more. Chi Yingmeng sighed in her heart. It was very cheap to stick to someone who didn't love you. Destroying true love. The doctor came quickly and took Chi Hongchang's pulse and wrote down a prescription. In the morning, the news that Madam had hit Sir spread throughout the residence. And it wasn't an ordinary attack. Ning Shu asked the doctor to take his pulse. In front of Chi Hongchang, Yu Binglan, and Chi Yingmeng, he asked the doctor why he was sleepwalking. He said that he didn't have this problem in the past. How did he sleepwalk and hit someone? Could he be cured? The doctor said that Ning Shu was suffering from a psychological problem. He did this unconsciously when he was asleep. Sometimes, when he sleepwalked, he didn't even know that he had killed someone. The doctor prescribed some calming medicine for Ning Shu and told him not to think too much in Ning Shu's heart. His heart was too depressed. When he fell asleep in the middle of the night, his body and mind would take over his instincts and do what he wanted to do. Take more medicine and don't think too much. He would get better in the end. Ning Shu replied with an "oh." His expression was a little ugly, but he also accepted that he was sleepwalking. "Hongchang, I'm sorry. I didn't know I did this when I was asleep. Don't worry, I won't do it again," Ning Shu said to Chi Hongchang with a sad face. The doctor said that sleepwalking wasn't a serious illness, but it wasn't a small one either. The family should be more tolerant and not have too much psychological pressure. Chi Yingmeng hurriedly asked, "Will Mother be fine after she takes the medicine?" "Not necessarily. It's a psychological problem after all. Chinese medicine doctors only used psychological problems to explain. It had something to do with the patient's mental state. Perhaps if he was in a good mood, he wouldn't sleepwalk. Taking medicine was one thing, but it also had a lot to do with the patient's mentality." "Then do you want to hit people when you're sleepwalking? How could that be? Who would dare to approach her?" Yu Binglan asked the doctor. It had only been a few days of peace, and now something had happened. As soon as he sleepwalked, he went to her room. "She's a sleepwalker. Just don't wake her up. Even if there's violence, it should be a counterattack, so don't worry about her. Just let her sleep." Yu Binglan's expression was very ugly. Even if she did something while sleepwalking, she wouldn't remember anything the next day. Could it be that the three of them would have to sleep together in the future? Yu Binglan felt a chill just thinking about it. Qi Yingming pulled Ning Shu aside and asked, "Mom, are you looking for Dad? Otherwise, he wouldn't have come to Yu Binglan's room. I've shared a bed with your father for more than 10 years. I'm not used to him suddenly not being by my side. Moreover, every time I ask you to come over to eat with me, you refuse. In this house, I'm all alone." Qi Yingmeng was moved. She looked at Ning Shu and couldn't bear it. "Then I'll eat with you in the future." Ning Shu shook his head. "No need. You can eat with whoever you want. I won't force you. After all, if I force you, you won't be happy. That's it." Qi Yingmeng was a little guilty. "I'm sorry, Mom." Ning Shu smiled. "It's okay. I don't blame you. You're my daughter. You have your own thoughts." Ning Shu felt goosebumps all over his body. "Then, Mom, I'll sleep with you tonight." Ning Shu was stunned. The first thing he felt was not touched, but he guessed that Qi Yingmeng was probably sleepwalking and disturbed the true love next door. Thinking of this, his heart hurt a little. It was a reaction left in his body by the client. Ning Shu smiled. "Okay." Ning Shu told Qi Hongchang that he wanted to go to the gallery to get some money. He wanted to find a Western doctor to see if he could treat his sleepwalking. Ning Shu smiled bitterly. "I only hit you this time. I don't know what else I'll do when I sleepwalk. What if I kill someone? So I want to treat it quickly. I don't want to cause trouble for you and Sister Binglan." Qi Hongchang was originally very angry that he was hit, but when he heard Ning Shu say that he wanted to kill someone, he didn't dare to be careless. Moreover, he was so noisy every night. How could she and Yu Binglan live a happy life? Therefore, Qi Hongchang took his seal and gave it to Ning Shu. This seal was kept by Qi Hongchang. He could get a lot of money from the gallery. Of course, in Qi Hongchang's heart, he didn't think that Feng Jia would betray him. She loved him and respected him. She was afraid that his wife wouldn't do anything. Ning Shu took the seal and said guiltily, "I'm sorry. I don't know why I hit you." Of course, Qi Hongchang wouldn't say that he was hit twice because he wanted to throw her out. Ning Shu took the seal to the gallery. Qi Hongchang's gallery was also a famous one in Shanghai. The paintings were very complete. There were Chinese paintings with a deep artistic conception and Western paintings with dazzling colors. The prices were all marked. They all started from 1,000 yuan. After all, these things were taken from the pockets of the rich for the sake of elegance. Ning Shu saw a wall with Yu Binglan's painting. It was very conspicuous near the door. Ning Shu walked closer and looked at the so-called soul painting. He expressed that he couldn't appreciate it. He didn't have the talent for art. After finding the person in charge of the gallery, Ning Shu took out the seal and said that he wanted to withdraw 5,000 yuan. 5,000 yuan wasn't a small amount. In this place, 3 to 5 yuan was enough for an ordinary person to live for a month. The person in charge hesitated for a moment, but he still gave it to Ning Shu. After all, this was the boss's wife. If the boss asked, he could just say that he was looking for his wife. 5,000 yuan was exchanged for 5 small yellow croakers. The small yellow croakers were gold nuggets and weren't very big. Ning Shu accepted it. He walked around the gallery and saw a famous painting. It should be a real antique. Ning Shu asked the person in charge to pass the painting to him. He said that he wanted to hang it in his house. The person in charge was speechless. Forget it. The boss's wife came with the seal. Ning Shu took the painting and kept it. As for Yu Binglan's painting, different people had different opinions. Some people felt that it was worthless. But when it came to people who appreciated it, such as Qi Hongchang, they were amazed. Ning Shu went to find a Western doctor and prescribed some calming medicine. He also told the doctor about his sleepwalking. In short, he treated it with a combination of Chinese and Western medicine. Taking the 5 small yellow croakers, Ning Shu used 2 small yellow croakers to buy a small courtyard. The courtyard didn't need to be very big or close to the downtown area. Ning Shu bought such a place to store things. For example, if he found an antique, he would find a box and bury it on the ground. It could be considered as a cultural relic. He might even be able to leave some assets for his descendants. Chapter 2703. Then, Ning Shu took the painting and went home. He told Shi Hongchang that he had taken the painting from the art gallery and placed it in his bedroom. He might be able to sleep better there. He also said that he had taken 5,000 yuan from the art gallery. Upon hearing that it was 5,000 yuan, Shi Hongchang's face frowned. He instantly gasped in pain. Ning Shu immediately said, "I know that I took a little too much, but Western doctors are very expensive. Western medicine is also very expensive, so I had no choice but to take a little more. Also, there are all sorts of expenses at home. Food, wages for the servants, and clothes for a few people. I also have to give my daughter some money. It's impossible for a child to not have some money." Ning Shu rambled on about the trivial matters at home, from buying a handful of onions to buying furniture and plates. He talked for a long time about various festive occasions. Hearing this, Shi Hongchang became impatient. Yu Binglan also had a headache. Her life was elegant. She painted and didn't do any household chores. She couldn't imagine such a life of daily necessities. It was no wonder that Shi Hongchang didn't like her. Who would like a vulgar woman? "Sister, don't talk anymore. Let Hongchang rest for a while." "Hongchang didn't rest much last night," Yu Binglan said. Ning Shu had an embarrassed expression. "Then have a good rest. I'll get Aunt Li to make some soup for you." Ning Shu left Yu Binglan's room in a relaxed mood. He let Yu Binglan take care of Shi Hongchang, who was swollen like a pig. He didn't know if Yu Binglan would despise him. Yu Binglan was a person who cared a lot about feelings. Ning Shu hung up the famous painting that he had brought back. The famous painting was a little yellowed. One look and one could tell that it was the accumulation of history. Qi Yingmeng didn't know if it was because she wanted to protect her true love or because she really felt a little guilty towards her mother. She accompanied Ning Shu for 3 meals a day and slept with Ning Shu at night. Logically speaking, the mother and daughter should be very intimate. But lying on the same bed, there was an indescribable awkwardness. Ning Shu pulled Qi Yingmeng aside and talked about some matters regarding the country. They said that the invaders had already begun to encroach on the northeast, and that it wouldn't be long before they attacked them. Qi Yingmeng was a young girl. She had the emotions of a young girl and was hot-blooded. She sat up excitedly and said, "At this time, we should call on everyone to unite and defeat the invaders." Ning Shu didn't think it was possible, at least not now, because the current situation was a military regime, even though the National Party was there. However, there were warlords everywhere, and they might not be able to mobilize them. How could they possibly unite? Later on, a new force emerged, and the situation of joint resistance was realized. But while resisting the invaders, there was also a civil war. The situation was not good. Qi Yingmeng was just hot-blooded. Later on, many students went to the streets to call for help, but it was useless. All authority was in the hands of the military and the big shots of the major clans. If these people weren't willing to exhaust their strength, it would be useless no matter how loudly they shouted. He might as well do some things himself. Ning Shu said, "Actually, many of our country's cultural relics have been spread abroad. I don't know how many cultural relics will be damaged in this war, and how many people will die." Qi Yingmeng was a bit dispirited. She chatted with Ning Shu and asked when the invaders would come here. Ning Shu said he didn't know. Actually, Qi Yingmeng was a rather wavering person. Now, she was hot-blooded and loved her country. In the plot, after the father and daughter met Yu Binglan, they left the country to avoid trouble. In the end, she wasn't a girl with a firm heart. If she was really a child with ideas, how could she not be able to distinguish such basic things? Not to mention helping reason and not family, she could even turn a blind eye to her mother's pain and praise others for being elegant and carefree in front of her mother. She was a person that any thoughtful man would fall in love with. Heartbreaking. Ning Shu felt that she had never been taken advantage of by Yu Binglan. She felt that having a crazy mother made her lose face. After chatting for a while, Qi Yingmeng fell asleep. Ning Shu pulled the blanket over her. Staring at Qi Yingmeng's sleeping face, he wondered if he should bring this child with him. At that time, she would definitely be separated from Qi Hongchang. In the chaos of war, it would be impossible for them to reunite again. She was the daughter of the client, otherwise, he wouldn't care about her life or death. He felt disgusted to keep her by his side. No one should love anyone in this world. Love was mutual. It was the same between parents and children. Just like Qi Yingming didn't love her mother either. When the client went crazy from pain, she couldn't wait to avoid her. Ning Shu propped up his chin and was in a bad mood. Should she sleepwalk? Well, sleepwalk, or Yu Binglan would leave Qi Hongchang, whose head was swollen like a pig's, to her to take care of. If she had the time, she might as well go find some antiques or find a channel to buy guns and ammunition. Although she could practice peerless martial arts, her spiritual energy wasn't very powerful and couldn't achieve the effect of dodging bullets. Although her spiritual energy could resist bullets, the client couldn't. Try not to use it to arouse suspicion. So, let's fight with guns. Ning Shu was like a ghost. She didn't wear shoes, so she didn't make any sound when she walked. She floated to the front of Yu Binglan's room. Knock, knock, knock. A very rhythmic knock on the door sounded in the middle of the night, which was particularly creepy. Furthermore, he kept tapping on it, maintaining the same rhythm. It was too fucking scary. Yu Binglan and Qi Hongchang both woke up. They looked at each other and decided to ignore the person knocking at the door. They covered their heads with the quilt and didn't open the door no matter how much he knocked. The corners of Ning Shu's mouth curled up. Then she started to kick him. Finally, the sound stopped and Ning Shu went back to his room to sleep. Ning Shu went out and came back. Qi Yingming didn't even notice and slept soundly. She didn't know that Ning Shu had gone to harass his true love next door. The next day, Yu Binglan was not in good spirits. Qi Yingming asked her if she didn't sleep well because she took care of her father. Yu Binglan couldn't help but look at Ning Shu, who was instructing the servants to buy things, as if nothing had happened. But after her fuss, she and Qi Hongchang didn't feel sleepy anymore. They felt that the knocking on the door kept echoing in their ears. Yu Binglan didn't know how long she could hold on. After a long time, she would definitely be annoyed. She was enduring it for Qi Hongchang. Ning Shu asked Yu Binglan kindly, "What do you want to eat? What dishes do you want to eat? I'll ask the servants to buy them." She really didn't remember. She didn't feel guilty at all. Instead, she looked energetic. Yu Binglan felt aggrieved and said, "Sister, you sleepwalked again last night." Ning Shu immediately said, "I took medicine before I went to bed. How could I sleepwalk again? That's impossible." Ning Shu didn't believe it and asked Qi Yingming, "You slept with me. Did I sleepwalk last night?" Qi Yingming, you're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.